OTB AM.
With Gillette, put your best face forward with our new and improved razors.
Right, you're very welcome along to Tuesday morning's OTB AM. It's Eoin with you all the way through until 10 a.m. What will the nerves be like in the Republic of Ireland set up today ahead of the game against Serbia? It will certainly be a backs-to-the-wall performance. It will be a performance inspired and incited by the barbs of the Irish media and of former players, if James McClean is to be believed after his press conference yesterday. And I don't really know how everybody feels about the team this morning. I really hope that the crowd gets behind them before kick-off and shows the FAI what it thinks of Stephen Kenny. Choose my words very carefully there, because that's famously what the crowd were urged to do about Roy Keane one time when they booed him. You know, it's going to be interesting to see. The Irish fans suddenly have a big role to play in what happens next with this setup.
It's good, maybe it's going to be a positive night. Maybe this is the night it finally happens. We can say this with kind of naive confidence on the morning of the game, because nothing has happened just yet. Give us a few hours and then more misery could set in. But who knows? Strange things have happened. We're
going to come back to that in just a minute, because we have to celebrate. We have good stuff. We have a very difficult... Somebody's DMing us there going, we're going to have to do a poll for the Irish Sports Person of the Year. Is it going to be Rachel Blackmore? Kind of forgot about what an amazing year Rachel Blackmore's had. It was like one of the all-time great years of a jockey. It's going to be Eoin Maguire, who is now officially the greatest rookie in Solheim Cup history. Could it be Katie Taylor for continuing to be the greatest boxer, that most successful unbeaten boxer that the country has ever produced? And there's plenty more contenders as well. But what Eoin Maguire did and what the European team did in the Solheim Cup was, just massively important in terms of, again, catapulting the sport back to the front pages and in beating the Americans again in the Solheim Cup. America's in the midst of this, why are we better than them but unable to beat them? It's almost as if teamwork and camaraderie and belief can take you far in sport.
Yeah, it's quite similar to the Ryder Cup story, isn't it? What was it? Alan Shipnuck wrote that piece a few years ago, being like, will Europe ever win a Ryder Cup ever again? And it seems that maybe the level of confidence that exists in the Solheim Cup too, and especially when it takes place in the USA. It had only happened once before where Europe actually won on American soil. It was a hammering back in 2013. They won 18-10, I think, on that occasion. And yesterday, you go into the final day, and we know from the Solheim Cup and from the Ryder Cup that nothing is sure with a relatively slender lead. It was 2 points going to the final day. Nothing is ever sure in that situation, with some of the stars that the USA have, with some of the inexperience that Europe had. You thought, this is on, and it was like a day where you weren't really sure which way it was going to go throughout the course of the 3 days. You had quality play, you had storylines, you had a little bit of beef, so I think that kind of helped elevate it to a whole other plane. And then obviously from our perspective, it turns out that Eoin Maguire is absolutely worthy of the hype. Not that anybody doubted that for one bit, because when we were doing our Mount Rushmore series on Cavan, Paul Fitzpatrick was on the show from the Anglo-Celt, and I mean, it wasn't even a sort of look at me, I'm from Cavan, and look at our great sports person. It was, here are a list of facts that you probably don't realise about Eoin Maguire and why she is possibly the most underrated Irish sports person operating right now. She's not underrated anymore. Everybody realises exactly what she is, but this was in the middle of last year, when we have to admit that we didn't quite realise just how special this talent was.
Well, she hadn't quite gone and torn up the trees on the LPGA, because she's technically still, obviously, she's a rookie in the Solheim Cup, and this is very early on in her PGA career. So it's been a kind of a massive explanation an exposition to the world of her talent over the last while. But look, you really hope that she can use this now as a catapult on an individual level to go and beat everybody she's beaten this week on a fairly consistent basis. Because if she does that, we're talking majors.
Definitely.
And we're talking potentially winner of the money list and unbelievably sponsorable. So it's just been a massive breakthrough week on a global level from that perspective.
She's almost a major banker at this stage. It's a matter of if and how many it's a matter of when and how many rather than if at this point. There's a great line in Ewan Murray's report of the final day. He said, Maguire is the first silent assassin to carry a 9-wood. I mean, we've had plenty of Irish sports people in the past who've wore their heart in their sleeve and have been incredibly passionate in an overt way. Eoin Maguire's passion was coming out through the fist pumping after knocking down another 15-yarder throughout the course of the weekend. There was a personality that's starting to emerge there as well, where people are like, wow, she is a silent assassin on the golf course. And as you say, that's a very, very marketable thing as well. But the main thing about her marketability is that she's unbelievably good at what she does.
Bradley Chamley tweeted, Europe has won 4 of the last 6 Solheim Cups and 7 of the last 9 Ryder Cups. Rarely are they favoured, rarely are they beaten. What do they know that US teams don't? James Carrigan from The Telegraph went, humility.
I think that's maybe a little bit harsh on the Solheim Cup team. I think it's probably true of the men's team for sure. There's definitely a sense that, oh, look at us compared to you, look at our world rankings and all the stars we have. And obviously there's been maybe a few captaincy choices that have gone astray on the American side of things in the Ryder Cup. Like, I think Katrina Matthew obviously deserves huge credit for what Europe have done over the last little while. She's been captain obviously for the last 2 wins, and in fairness you can say they've won 4 of the last 6, but they've won half of the last 4. So since Katrina Matthews come on board as European captain, they've won 2 in a row. Yeah,
it's just been look, it's the type of thing that I think we can certainly look forward to every couple of years now, having one of the key people be Irish. Like, the performance level is all-time great. Nathan came on yesterday and explained that if she wins her singles and she'd an eagle in the second, to kind of like, oh yeah, well, this isn't going to happen today, thanks very much, this ain't going to happen today. If she won her singles, it would be the best rookie performance ever in the Solheim Cup, and away you go, 4.5 points, thanks very much, out of 5. It's like sensational. Yeah. Absolutely sensational. So big time. That's what that is. OTB AM is brought to you by Gillick. Good morning. Start with Gillick. Put your best face forward with their new and improved razors. Let's talk about the Republic of Ireland, because we've talked a lot on this show about how the Stephen Kenny era is essentially a battle for the soul of Irish football, and we get it. People push back on that quite a bit. They're like, oh well, he's not the only one who can play good football. No, it's true. He's not the only one who can play good football, but he is at the moment the only one who has come through the system and is intimately familiar with the underage players, having actually worked as part of the underage system and also the League of Ireland. Like, he is now, you could maybe make the case that Jim Crawford could step up and be the next Ireland manager, but is somebody like Jim Crawford going to get the job if the FAI decide that they didn't want Stephen Kenny anymore? You would hope so, because that's the whole point of a succession plan, and we'll come back to the whole idea
we will.
of a succession plan a little bit later on. I mean, underage managers stepping up don't always immediately work. Sometimes they need a little bit of rope. Sometimes they need those players to reach a level of physical and mental and emotional maturity. Kerry, we're talking Kerry here, in case you're all like, what's this little tangent?
I thought you were talking about Kildare.
What's this little weird in-joke they have? Yeah, and Kildare. We will talk about this a little bit later on, but we're going to start by getting into the Republic of Ireland stuff. So you probably saw James McClean was in feisty mood yesterday, but there was other stuff that he said that was embargoed until this morning. He's had his say on Ireland's critics. Have a look at this.
Yeah, well, Richard Dunn and Paul McGrath, like unbelievable in Irish shirt. So, of course, I respect their opinions. I don't remember Stephen Elliott pulling up too many trees in an Ireland shirt, so I wouldn't pay too much heed to what Stephen says, to be honest. But Richard Dunn and Paul McGrath, yeah, massive respect for their opinion. You know what I mean? They've been there, they've done it. So, look, obviously it's disappointing to hear, because, like I said, you have a new manager here. It's first time at international level, and a lot of young players experience it for the first time. So, like I said, we hopefully start winning games again, and then that doesn't be the case. Do you know what I mean? The more support, the better. And obviously, like I said, how much I respect Richard and Paul, but I'm just hoping the younger players aren't seeing that criticism, because it's not going to do any good for their confidence, especially at this moment in time.
Yeah, look, I don't think that you can take some criticism and not others. Like, particularly when you've been beaten by Luxembourg and you haven't performed against Azerbaijan. Now, in between, there was a very good performance against Portugal, where we were pretty unfortunate not to get something away from home against one of the best teams in the world. So you've got to take this whole thing in the round. But that was the first clip that we want to play you. I want to play you this one. Here he is talking about Ireland's recent performances. Have a look at this.
Well, I think apart from the Azerbaijan, like I don't think the performance was bad against Azerbaijan. I think for that 15-45 in the first half, it was unacceptable. But I don't think the performance itself was bad. Like, we've created enough chances and not putting the ball in the net. Like, obviously that's worrying because. But the last 5 games, I think we're only beaten once, and it was later on against Portugal. And you know, for 90 minutes against Portugal, the team were fantastic. You know, we went away to Hungary in the summer. They had a full house, and Hungary went on done well in the group they had in the Euros, which, you know, we had a lot of players missing as well in the summer playing Hungary. So, and that was a good performance. So I think you can see the signs are getting better, like performances are getting better, but we need to start scoring goals, we need to start putting the ball in the net, we need to start winning games, and we need to do that soon. But I think the performances show recently that, you know, we are making progress, and I know it's difficult to say, you know, stick with us when we have months and, you know, so long, but I think it's easy to say, oh, we're not getting the rub of the green, but we have to make that look ourselves, and I think we're so close to getting that one, and hopefully then, you know, that'll kickstart a few more.
The big conversation point about we don't have a striker, and so therefore the point of changing the manager is that no manager is going to suddenly be able to deliver Patrick Bamford, for example. Obviously that's not an option anymore, but it's true, right? If you were to do a mixtape of all the misses so far, that the ones that have hit the upright, hit the crossbar, been blazed over from 2 yards, it wouldn't look good, would it? Like, and is that how much? Look, you know, how much do you blame the manager for that? You got to, at some point, the structures in place, give the players the confidence to go and be the full expression of themselves. So I accept that the manager has to have some responsibility for that, but at other times it's like, lads, stick it in. Come on.
Yeah, that's definitely been an issue. Like, it's interesting. There's obviously a couple of headline grabbing things from James McClean's press conference in general. Obviously, going back on the whole criticism of the team and the different pundits is going to grab headlines. The English versus Irish media coverage, which he thinks is basically the same, I think is going to grab a lot of headlines as well, and already has done. But there is a kind of essential theme to what James McClean is thinking here, and it is that the inexperienced players just are inexperienced and will not be at a level to actually deliver and change results for the Republic of Ireland until they get a little bit more experience. But he's also taken a little bit of responsibility on. He says that maybe we haven't helped the kids as well as we could have helped them, and he took that on board as a senior player. So that there is a little bit of taking responsibility on when it comes to James McClean, in fairness. And when you are looking for Ireland to start scoring goals, which I think we all accept is the big problem. Of course it's a problem when Seamus Coleman doesn't close down an Azeri player from 30 yards out. Of course that's not great, but like that seems like something that can be changed, or something that won't happen week in, week out. Whereas the goal scoring thing is clearly a trend. But those are the areas where Ireland are so inexperienced. I think inexperience is a legitimate reason why Ireland have been poor. Like Connolly, 7 caps, or 8 caps, Parrott, 7 caps, Ida, 9 caps was the attack the other night. Malumbi, 11 caps, Cullinan, 11 caps was your midfield the other night. Like, that is your attack, completely made up of inexperienced players. 2 of those players just getting over 10 caps at the moment. So that will change, that will get better. Now, whether or not that actually leads to greater composure in front of goal, I'm not sure, because the moments you refer to, the lads sticking in the back of the net, don't just refer to the younger players. James Collins had a terrible miss against Luxembourg, if I remember correctly. Obviously, there was the Harahan miss against Slovakia at the very start of the campaign. So it's not just the kids that are missing chances. And Seamus Coleman, even the other day, when he blazed over when he gets that opportunity inside the box. Granted, you're not expecting your right back to net every single time he gets a touch in the box. But I think there are legitimate reasons as to why that particular area of Ireland's play is falling flat at the moment. And McClean, in fairness to him, pointed it out in his less I guess explicit quotes over the last couple of days.
Yeah, and look, the comparing the Irish media to the English media hasn't gone down well with the Irish media, funnily enough. But you know, I think that everybody can read the papers, check the headlines, see the stuff that's coming out about Stephen Kenny, and see the fact that all the stuff seems to be originating in the same place. And other people have had fairly consistent views and go, actually, you know what? How different is this from what you would get with the English tabloids? Maybe there's less of the photographic stuff that historically you would have seen with the Irish media now than you would have seen with the English media. But I think they've changed. They've that kind of being able to put somebody's face on a dartboard, or being able to put somebody's face, or sending a Kermit the Frog. Isn't that what was it? Kermit the Frog or Miss Piggy that they sent to one of the Steve Staunton press conferences? Maybe the media doesn't do that anymore. So maybe things have changed. 087 918 180 is the WhatsApp number if you want to get in touch with us this morning. It's 7:45. I want to play you this clip here, right? This is the clip about Stephen Kenny talking about what happens next and being told or not being told that he is going to still be the Republic of Ireland manager through to the end of the Euros campaign, or at least he'll be given the start of the Euros campaign. Have a look at this, because I just want you to watch this and then we'll show you how it's reported on in the papers today. Have a look.
Well, I've been given no assurances in that regard, and I've taken the decisions I've taken regardless of the impact on myself or here. I've not been given any assurances in that regard. I think I've just been given full support by the FAI. People behind the scenes have been brilliant, and I think I think I've done it because we have a very, very exciting squad emerging, and we've not had a huge pool of players to pick between the experienced players who are at the other end of the career and the young players that are coming through. There has been a gap there for sure. But I'm very, very pleased with the emerging squad, and I think that some of our performances have been excellent, like against Portugal the other day, where that was the cruelest of fates really, to lose that game, of it going into the 89th minute. And I think the players have deserved better than they've got over the last few games, because overall against Azerbaijan we threw the kitchen sink and we created so many chances and played well for long periods in the game and had so many attempts at goal. But we need to definitely improve our finishing, and it's not like Azerbaijan. They don't concede a lot of goals. 2-1 against Serbia, 1-0 against Portugal. They're not minnows. These players are playing in group stages of European competition, and they certainly none of the games are easy. So that's the way I see it.
So that's Stephen Kenny talking specifically when he was asked about had he been given assurances about his job. And he's like, well, the assurances are neither here nor there. My plan is to plan for the future because I'm long-sighted. And there's another bit where he's passionately talking, which would have been out there yesterday, where he was talking about your job's to win the next game. That's not very long-sighted, is it? That's a bit too near-sighted. So this is how the papers have reported this morning. The Irish Independent: I'm not under threat, Kenny. This is Dan McDonald's piece. Under fire manager, confident of FAI backing if World Cup bid ends against Serbia. Stephen Kenny has dismissed suggestions his job is under threat if Ireland loses Serbia tonight. That's the same headline on the Herald, obviously the same piece. Kenny, my job is still secure. Give us a break. This is the Irish Daily Mirror, and this is Paula Hare's piece. Stephen Kenny rounded on his knife-wielding critics last night and accused them of nearsightedness. Kenny hits back at critics for not looking to future and says he's already planning 2024 campaign. The Irish Sun on the top of Neil Reardon's piece. I won't get kicked to the Serb. Kenny defiant. I hope we don't get a kick in the Balkans. Stephen Kenny very much doubts his job hinges on tonight's game against Serbia. And then the story obviously yesterday was that his job was at risk. That was coming from the Star. And Paul Lennon's piece today is no can do. FAI haven't given Stephen assurances over his future. Stephen Kenny admits that he's in the dark over his chances of securing a contract extension to cover the Euro 2024 campaign. The FAI board has become increasingly frustrated with Kenny's Ireland team, which is yet to win a competitive match under the manager and has beaten only Andorra in 15 games. Now, we haven't obviously had a comment from the FAI board about that, so obviously that's his sources who are telling him that. And again, the whole notion that the board was going to not be leaky anymore. The Examiner: is Kenny's plan on the same page as the FAI? This is the headline on John Fallon's piece. And he's comparing him with Steve Staunton here. Just when we thought Steve Staunton's 4-year plan was consigned to history, along comes Stephen Kenny to borrow the blueprint. The difference between the two Stephens is that Stan's grand vision was at least authorised by his employers, lest we forget it didn't reach the midway point. And Asked if his bosses were on the same page, his answer highlighted the sort of dysfunctionality the FAI hoped had departed with the last regime. No, I don't know. No, I think the FAI knew when I was appointed that they had good players coming through the system. Serbia possessed the armoury to make those conversations difficult, but if Kenny shows half the fight he did yesterday, he could stumble on longer than his namesake and fellow Dundalk favourite managed to 14 years ago. So I'm just showing you that there's a complete difference in how different media organisations are listening to the stuff that Stephen Kenny says and how they're reporting it. And the Daily Mail, who obviously yesterday were also reporting that Kenny's job was at risk if we lose against Serbia. Kenny claims reaching Qatar wasn't realistic, worlds apart. Stephen Kenny has revealed he didn't regard the Republic of Ireland as credible contenders to qualify for the 2022 World Cup, and his goal has always been to lead the team to the Euro 2024 finals. So you pays your money, you buys your paper, and you makes your choice. Dion Fanning, good morning to you. How are you?
Hi, Ger. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited by what might happen tonight. I'm also a little bit nervous, and I'm also very interested in how just the response to Stephen Kenny yesterday and to James McClean when he said that the Irish media is a bit like the English media. Naturally, the Irish media who were at the press conference were a bit upset about this. But the media, sometimes we have thin skins. We don't like it when people tell us things. And I think James McClean, if we take away the heat, has some point in the middle of it where Dunphy said on the show last week with us that there were people out to get Stephen from within the FAI was what he was saying. But it's true that Stephen Kenny has had people who have not given him the same opportunity they would have given other managers if there was a Premier League CV. Is that fair to say?
Possibly. I think it's mixed. I think there's a few people, maybe within the FAI, maybe outside the FAI, who don't want Stephen Kenny to do well. I think there's a lot more people who want him to do well. I think it kind of misses the point of, I mean, you kind of touched on it there, Ger, misses the point of, first of all, what James McClean said, which I think it's a very bad look for the media to kind of bristle and get up in arms. And I know there's no collective, no message goes out, let's respond to this. But there is that sense, you see people tweeting the media, and you see journalists tweeting, this is not, the media have been very supportive. I think it's a bad look for the media to kind of do that, because when the media is criticised, as you say, it comes across as thin-skinned. And if the media is criticised, or if people are being criticised in the media, you have to kind of listen to people when they say the media is bad in this country. And I think he probably had a point. I don't think there's any agenda. I think the media is the media. It is untamable, even more so these days. It is not something that cares one way or the other what happens. It just wants to be fed. It just wants something to keep it going. And I think one of the things I think that has happened, and it's a function of where Irish football is that there is no other talking point in Irish football now than the state of the Irish football team and Stephen Kenny. I think it's actually quite an interesting time in Irish football. I think it's a lot more interesting than the Mick McCarthy era, second era, if you want to call it an era.
Or even Trap, really.
What?
Or even the Trapattoni era, really, where we were being told constantly.
Yeah, well, Trapattoni was fascinating. I imagine, for a journalist, Trapattoni was a fascinating time because you were in the, it was always that disappointment from moving from a Trapattoni press conference or being in his presence to actually watching them play. So it was quite there was some fascination there, but definitely there is something that is interesting now. But the thing I was going to say is I think we don't have anything to distract us anymore. And this is also something that the players then have to deal with. These players are under a lot more scrutiny now because of when they come into an Ireland team, and they are most of the rest of their time. They're okay. They're forging professional careers. They're trying to make it in professional football. It's a really tough world to be living in, and they would probably dispute the idea that this is the toughest they get. But they're certainly under a lot more scrutiny when they come into the Ireland squad than they're used to, because we don't have the players. I was thinking about it this morning as a very throwaway example, but when 20 years ago when you had Roy Keane and Dennis Irwin and players like that coming in. Like a very small example, I remember Keane being asked at an Ireland press conference about chasing Andy D'Urso across Old Trafford. That was the first talking point of the kind of Monday before an international. And Keane gave his line that he kept running and we kept chasing. But we don't have anything else to talk about, because there's nothing that really is happening in the lives of the Irish international squad, outside the Irish international squad, that people are interested in. So then it becomes obsessive, then it becomes relentless, then it becomes the same topic over and over again. And I think it's probably true. I think McClean's point, and I think, to be fair to McClean, he did actually say he was talking more about previous times. Clearly, once we're compared to England, we are our whole identity these days seems to be just predicated on not being England. So the minute we're compared to England, we're going to get up in arms, because that's not fair. And we see that as unjust. But I think there's probably a truth in it over the last 10 years. But I would say it's not a truth out of any agenda. It's not a truth out of anything. It's just the nature of the media. The media just wants what it wants. It wants something, and that's it. And I think the Kenny time has actually been, I think it's been reasonably fair. I think it's not, but I don't think it matters really. It doesn't matter if you come out and defend yourself. If people say this, if you're in the media, you kind of have to listen and go, okay, that's perception, and that's, you're entitled to your perception of it.
So where do you draw the line then on the English-Irish media comparisons? How true are they? You say, you said our identity is to not be the British media, but how closely aligned are we in terms of the coverage, do you feel?
Well, I don't think I think it should be, I don't know. I don't think it's. I think there are moments, in all these things, when you actually detect shades of the superiority that we would have mocked the English media for over the years. When we don't beat teams that people expect us to beat, the level of outrage and anger. And this isn't just in the media, but this is just a general point. Is pretty presumptuous and ignores the reality. And I think a lot of the stories, even about Stephen Kenny and his future, ignore the reality of where Irish football is, not just in terms of the players, but in terms of finances.
This is the key point, isn't it? This is ultimately, when you say there's no distractions, there's also no distractions from the horrible truth that we are today where we are as a result of what's happened over the last 3-4 decades, where we have outsourced all of our development to the UK, essentially. We've completely ignored the domestic league. We've not invested in facilities. We haven't lobbied the government properly for funding. We haven't invested in coaches. And what happens is you get a national side that's going to struggle against teams who we used to think of as minnows, but actually have got their house in order.
Well, they've done something, and we're struggling. And I think Stephen Kenny is completely right when he says, and I've been at press when he says that, win the next match and that's all that matters, because we've kind of gone through that and nothing really changes. And this is painful. And I was in that group where qualifying for the World Cup seemed like a pipe dream to me. I don't know why people, and I do think, again, and this may go back to the point, some of the media coverage is around these kind of terms of reference that are outdated. Like, we should be qualifying for the World Cup. We're not. Qualification is gone. Like that struck me as kind of bizarre. Now again, maybe I'm not in the press box these days. I'm not there, and I'm not. Maybe I'm just out of touch. But when that was mentioned, I was like, oh, we were going for qualification, where we actually thought this was a realistic prospect. Like, I didn't think it was a realistic prospect, so I don't see why it should be something that's used as a stick to beat Stephen Kenny. And that is the truth of it. As you say, Ger, like, what has happened in Irish football, the cannibalization of Irish football, if you like, to pay for things that were, mismanagement at the top, the Aviva, the money that was taken from, football clubs buying tickets and all these kind of things that actually took away from the stuff that might have happened in terms of youth development and getting. And that is the only way out of this. That is the only. Like, we may still export players. Like, we may still end up exporting players. Like, the domestic league may never be a league that isn't something that our best players think, I need to go and play somewhere else. That's not unique to Ireland. But when we export them, we might hope that actually they play, that we start producing players that make a difference, that are playing at big clubs that are making a difference at those clubs, and then that feeds back into the success of the Irish national team. And I think that's what Kenny is getting at, and I think that is a noble. And whether actually noble is the wrong word, because it suggests something slightly indulgent. It is, and I think it's an essential task. Right?
It's our only way out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, is he? The point is, he's not the only person in the world who could lead that, but he is certainly the best qualified person at the moment to lead that. And if we were to replace him at the moment, it would seem like an act of gross self-sabotage, unless we found some genius who's already within the ranks, who understands the talent pool coming through and how,
it may be, without being, and it may be brutal on Stephen Kenny, but it may be Stephen Kenny's function at this point to do this really thankless task without being brutal about it. Like, I don't know if Stephen Kenny is going to work. I think an awful lot of the criticisms of him, there will be an awful lot of post-factual criticisms stitched on him, like he can't do it because of this, because of that. I question that, but it may be that his function at this point is to kind of do this really thankless job. And maybe, I hope he gets further. I hope something else happens, but there is no point in looking for somebody else. There is no point in beginning a management search like that. We've been through them. This is the thing. I've been through an awful lot of them. A total waste of time and energy. A complete waste of time and energy. To spend 6 months looking for a manager. It is a pointless exercise at this point. And I think there needs to be. I think the FAI could probably be stronger on this. Actually, I think there needs to be some sense of, this is what we're trying to do. This isn't going to be easy. This isn't going to happen overnight. Even the fact that he said about qualifying for Germany yesterday, some people had to point out, hold on a second. As far as we're aware, that's the first time that's ever been stated as your objective. That should have been, that's an obvious objective. As laid out, Kenny said it himself, we haven't qualified for a World Cup since 2002. Okay, we came close a couple of times. But there would have been no harm in actually the FAI stating that as an objective too. Now, maybe they feel it doesn't help, but I think that sense of you need to move beyond the same old responses, and we need to move beyond it because of what's happened, because of where we are, and because, as I said, this doesn't get any better just by doing the same things over and over again.
Well, on that point, right, and to wrap this up, the Superman meme of the old FAI and the new FAI pointing at each other, because they haven't come out and said, actually, you know what, we've thought about this, we're taking a long-term view, we've decided he's our manager through to the European campaign, and if 4 games into the European campaign we've got no points, then fair enough. It's fair to say at that point, this hasn't worked, we haven't qualified for the Euros, we're going to give the next manager this campaign to blood whatever it is he wants to do, and so by the time the World Cup comes through, but at least make that the thing, and this noise disappears.
But Ger, I hope they're identifying the next manager now, but for 2022 or 2023 or whatever. That would be a sign of progress. Not to say who's our next manager if we fire Stephen Kenny tomorrow morning, but who's our next manager when Stephen Kenny goes? Where is this going? That's what should be happening. And I would slightly dispute the idea that it's the same old FAI, because decisions were funneling through one man in the old FAI, no matter what what kind of collegiate sheen was put on them. And I do think there is a more of a collective, which then is going to make it possibly it's easier to get someone to say something and be dissatisfied. But I do think that's the way to be doing it, to actually think, right, who is going to take over from Stephen Kenny at some point? Maybe after the 2020, ideally after the 2024 European Championships or the 2026 World Cup. But that's what Irish football needs to be doing and doing differently. And nothing changes if you think that right now is the time to change the manager.
100%. Okay. What's your prediction for tonight? What's going to happen?
I think a draw. I think there's another 1-1 draw. Like, we can't talk about change in Irish football, but the 1-1 draw will always be with us.
The 1-1 draw is great because everybody gets to project whatever they want onto it. The Kenny out brigade will be like, another home draw, what are you doing? And the Kenny in will be like, look, it's progress. We've moved forward here. So that's why it's the perfect result for all of us to be able to talk about and write about and think about. Dion, great to talk to you. Thanks a million for joining us this morning. Cheers.
Thanks, Dads.
Dion Fanning there, Associate Editor of The Currency, joining us this morning to give us his thoughts on the Republic of Ireland manager situation. OTB AM is brought to you by Gillette. Good morning. Start with Gillette. Put your best face forward with their new and improved razors. I'm going to tell you what's coming up between now and the end of the show. We're going to speak with Aindriu Mac Lochlainn about the Kildare situation and a little bit about the Kerry situation. Bring you through the sports pages at 8:25. Stephen Doyle is on commentary duty for the Republic of Ireland against Serbia tonight, live from the Aviva Stadium. He's going to be alongside Stewie Byrne. We'll talk to him and get his thoughts on the scenario, and also a bit of a breakdown on where the threats from Serbia will come. David Gillick is going to join us at 8:50, and then we'll speak to Michaela Walsh and Aidan Walsh about their Olympic adventure at 9:10 this morning. We're going to keep talking about the Republic of Ireland all the way through between now and the end of the show as well. I watched a lot of coverage about Kenny over the last couple of days, heard both sides of the argument. Says Patrick, give Kenny till the end of the campaign, make the decision then, be absolute madness to move him on now. Owen on YouTube says, Jerry Gilroy, 10-year contract for Kenny, no one else can manage Ireland, it's official. See, that's the type of stuff that I didn't say that. I don't think Kenny's the only person who can manage Ireland, but just right now, in the scenario that we have, you need to give him the opportunity to put into practice everything that he's been working for, which is in the European campaign. And then if that fails, and if halfway through we can't qualify for the Euros, well, at that point you're looking for a new manager. And as Dion says, you need at that point to have identified who that new manager might be. And actually there's loads of candidates for that who you could have in the system and have coming through and make your succession plan work. Crazy that the media can be critical of managers never won a real game, says Matthew. It would only ever happen in England and Ireland. Every other media would be 100% supportive. It's not that they need to be supportive, it's just that there's an honesty of effort. That's what we're looking for. And Aaron says, brilliant performance by Eoin and Maguire, amazing. I say, Ger, want Davy Burke in as Kildare manager, young, passionate, just want Kildare, needs to believe a bit more, says Aaron, who's squeezed a lot into his message there.
Yeah, Leona, amazing. Davy Burke, potentially amazing, is the point in a nutshell there. Like, I mean, obviously, nobody's saying, just go back to Matthew's point, that it's crazy to criticise a manager after a couple of disappointing losses. It's just some of the tone is the job is under threat and all that, where it's like, where are the people on the record actually saying this, and where is the real threat coming from? Because it's just like pretty tough reporting, basically, is certainly how I would have looked at it. The succession plan is spot on from Dion. The one thing I would just say on that is that there's just a tiny bit of PTSD when it comes to any succession plan, when it comes to the FAI, because their temptation may be to give the next manager a contract and the current manager an end date on their contract, but that doesn't need to be the way it goes. Obviously, that you know exactly who the would-be manager would be if your first choice manager, your current manager, your incumbent actually steps away from the job or gets sacked or whatever the case may be. Right now, the FAI are still trying to feel their way through these next few years and actually having a proper plan to what comes during the Stephen Kenny era, the end of the Stephen Kenny era, and next. Probably not a bad thing to be finding out over the next little while.
It's 8:09. Jack O'Connor has stepped down as the Kildare football manager. What did Kildare do next? We're going to find out after the break.
OTB AM on OTB Sports Radio, Ireland's first and only sports radio station.
This is OTB Sports Radio.
Are you at peace now, 25 years on, with what happened in Mayo in '96? Oh, John, I get reminded regularly.
Sorry.
I happened to be down in a scrum today and I met a Meath man and he kind of had a bit of a laugh about it. He's still blaming Pat McInerney, incidentally, for sending off Liam Michaela in the week today. We'll never forgive Pat.
Off the Ball, Saturdays from 1 on OTB Sports Radio. Listen live on the OTB Sports app. He's a 7-time All-Ireland winner. He's a Mayo legend. Now they're together on the same team. Join Paddy Andrews and Andy Moran for the hit of the GAA season. The Football Pod with Paddy and Andy.
9 months, you're a monk. If that goes well then you have October, November, December, and you enjoy it, and you Lord Prince of Copperface Jacks.
Get the hop on everyone else. Hear the Football Pod and more first on the OTB Sports app every Tuesday morning. For the latest on GAA, Olympics, rugby, football and more, download the OTB Sports app, turn on push notifications and hear it here first.
OTB AM.
With Gillette, put your best face forward with our new and improved razors.
We're going to talk about Gaelic football and the managerial merry-go-round, which is now officially in full swing. Just to lift the curtain a little bit, we were talking about this yesterday. Owen joined our post-show conversation quite late. He was like, look, lads, I don't even know what you're talking about this story. There's nothing to it. And then an hour later, he's like, hang on a second. Jack O'Connor may actually be in the frame here. So what's your gut instinct, Owen? Who is the new Kerry manager going to be? Is it the same? Is it the same old new guy? Is it a third same old new guy? Who's it going to be?
The old same old new guy. I should say as well, just casually throwing out off-air conversations as if they're not privileged like that. I was broken the news to on a call yesterday that Jack O'Connor had left, so I was a bit frazzled. I expected him to be around Kildare for a little bit longer. I don't know what's going to happen, but my gut feeling is that Jack O'Connor is not leaving Kildare for no reason whatsoever. Maybe it is just a very tough drive. Maybe the 4 hours up and the 4 hours down is a tough old drive. And I know where he lives, and even to get from his house to other parts of Kerry is a very difficult thing to do, let alone Newbridge.
Mildly threatening there. So, I know where he lives there.
So, and so does all of the county when things go bad.
In a nutshell, ladies and gentlemen, that is why the Kerry football manager job is one of the worst jobs in world sport. Everybody knows where you live.
I know it's
okay.
He's he's a neighbour of my grandmother's, So,
okay. It's a legit. Everybody knows everybody. It's fine.
Exactly. And maybe that's it. Maybe it really does boil down to that. But you can't not think that there is a real possible new role for him in a new life somewhere as a result of his decision, or so it has been painted yesterday. So my gut feeling now is actually different to what it was on this private phone call, this private team call that we had yesterday, which you've now made public, which was at that time.
Well, it's important. It meant that you went off and did some journalism, and now you actually think that there's more than a 0% chance of this happening.
I think so. I think I would not be surprised to see Jack O'Connor as Kerry boss next year at all. And
to lift the curtain a bit further, with myself, with Tommy in particular, was very strong. He thought that the incumbent would get another year, that Peter Keane would be the Kerry manager next year. He needs to apply. He needs to make it known that he wants it. But all of a sudden, Jack O'Connor did that interview with Paul Rouse on the Irish Examiner's podcast, and a cat crept out of the bag, blinked and meowed, and was like, hang on a second, what's going on here? Which was very upsetting to Kildare supporters, because ultimately, when you have a job, the very straightforward answer is, I've got a great job at the moment. Look what we've done over the last couple of years. Look at all the stuff that we've achieved. I've been very committed to this group of players, and they're committed to me, and we are not finished our journey. But it turned out that journey was over.
Division 1, baby. And come closer to Dublin again next year. I think that
closer. Maybe try and beat.
Yeah, but
is it? Oh, look, the shimmering. The potential for victory is shimmering in the distance, and we can't ever even dream of getting there because it's a mirage. That's why
I think it's an exciting job to take. That's why I'm on in a higher state of alert as a result of this yesterday, because I just don't know why you'd leave the Kildare role, because I think it's an exciting job to have, and I think if Davy Burke is the guy for it and he's fully enthusiastic about it, I think that the immediate future is actually really bright.
Former Kildare footballer Aindriu Mac Lochlainn is with us this morning. Aindriu, good morning to you. How are you?
Morning, gents.
What was your take when you saw the comments from the Irish Examiner podcast that everybody wants to manage Man United?
Well, first of all, I was disgusted because I'm a Liverpool man. But Yeah, look, I was of the same opinion as you. I thought it was completely inappropriate for a sitting manager of any county to speak the way he spoke, and in effect courting another job while being a manager of Kildare. I thought it was disrespectful to the players. I have no issue with Jack and what he has done and his commitment levels, but I just thought the tone and the language used in that interview was completely inappropriate. And I thought Kildare County Board missed a beat here, because I genuinely would have had serious issues and call him in for a meeting, because that's no way for a sitting manager of any county to act. And like, I mean, it kind of, I think we missed a beat in terms of bringing him in to have a conversation and setting the tone for any future managers and setting the tone for Kildare football. We may not have the tradition that Kerry has, but we are a mad footballing county and we have ambitions, and you know, an easy life, as Jack might call it, you know, maybe it's not so easy now.
Yeah, the problem with what happened, the way it happened for Kildare County Board, as you rightly point out, the statement was talking about how they had been. Jack had previously indicated that the personal impact of the commute from South Kerry was taking its toll, but that his desire was to continue in the role and to build on the progress achieved over the previous couple of years. To this end, he and his management team were at an advanced stage of planning for 2022, but he has now decided not to stay on for a third year. It's like, we've just been jilted here by somebody who wasn't really in love with us in the first place. That's what that statement, and that's what that paragraph in the statement is like, we're completely underprepared for this. He'd already started planning for 2022. All of a sudden, the journey is an issue. It's like, it's not a great look for Kildare County Board, is it?
No, it's like completely it's not, you know. And look, Jack is a very experienced manager, and I find it hard to believe that this was maybe a slip of the tongue, or, you know,
Oh, we've lost you there, Andrew. Someone's ringing you.
Just getting a phone call.
I have with it.
Sorry, you were just saying there, you find it hard to believe it was a slip of the tongue.
Yeah, it's not believable, you know, to feel that he actually got caught off guard in that radio interview, and he didn't really mean or meant to use the language he used. He's a clever man. He's on the block a long time in this game, and I think he knows what he was doing there. And maybe look, the round trip is significant. That obviously has to be a factor, but you're only 2 years into a 3-year contract. If at the end of the season you knew this was going to be an issue, you'd try and give your county board as much notice. So look, I have no issue with Jack. I wish him all the best. But like, I mean, the Kerry gig is a fantastic job to get. Would you want to be anywhere else? They're direct quotes from the man, you know.
Yeah.
Football's tradition in Kerry. You know, if you want players coming through, the Kerry football team, everything's set up for them. If you want an easy life, go coach somewhere else. It doesn't reflect well on a sitting manager to say that about Kildare football.
No.
I had a big issue with that when he said it. So the Kildare County Board, from my point of view, missed an opportunity here to bring him in, say, look, we heard the interview, play it to him, ask him to explain himself, and then say, look, thanks, we appreciate what you've done, but we're going to move on here. And then make a public statement to the effect of, look, we may not have the traditions that Kerry have, but we are serious about our football, and we want a manager who is serious about us and take us to the next step, and give a manager a 3 or a 5 year plan to do that for us. You know, that's my opinion on it.
If you put on your playing hat again, Andrew, what would you have thought if you were Daniel Flynn, for example, in that dressing room? A man with huge talent, huge ambition, huge designs on winning a Leinster Championship soon. What would you have felt when you saw those quotes from Jack?
I would have been disgusted for whether it was 1 or to number 31, because I have no issue with Jack. I'm supposed to make that clear, and I suppose he's liked in that regard, and he's obviously committed to it, and he was involved in Moorfield to a degree, and his sons were involved in Moorfield, so he's well got, you know, in Kildare. But from my point of view, there's no way that would have happened in Kerry. There's no way he would have said what he said on Kerry radio looking for the Cork job. You know, he would have been ran out of the county, as he said himself. So from my point of view, I thought after what he said, the position was untenable, because, look, I'm proud Kildare, man, but we have to be realistic. And if you think about where we are, I think you have to be very honest with yourself and say, where are we as a county and why aren't we further? And was last year such a good year? Like we beat Cork, the last quarter we could have lost it. We lost to Clare at home to take control of that Division 1 group. We didn't. We needed a result between Cork and Clare to look after a result to get us into a match against Meath. Yes, we played well against Meath. But then we kind of got over the line with a Neil Flynn goal against Offaly. Again, Neil Flynn played super against Westmeath. If Westmeath had their shooting boots on, we would have been out the gate that day. So, and then a goal from Dan Flynn, which was one magic moment, took the bad luck off a scoreline, which would have been 11 points down to 8. And are we happy to be within 8 points of Dublin?
Yes.
In my opinion,
yes, we were. So, Andrew, to be honest, the thing that annoyed me most about the whole Jack O'Connor era was essentially he came out afterwards and went, geez, that wasn't bad, lads. I'm paraphrasing, but if we'd had a bit more composure there at the end, we could have made a right game of it. I'm like, have some ambition. Like, I understand that it's Dublin and they're unbeatable, but it turned out they weren't. And you'd seen Meath have a go at them in that third quarter. And when you have a go at them, maybe they might be beatable. It'd be good to find out. Yeah.
But like you have to have, like, any player that's on that panel, that's sitting in that bus, that's in that dressing room, have to have an unwavering belief that actually, you know what, we actually can do this. Because any little bit of doubt, whether it's a guy who is even not on the actual players that are named to actually play on the day, if they don't have the belief that the guy sitting in front of them can come on and make a difference, or the guy who wearing the jersey can actually get the job done, that seeps in. And I don't care what anyone says, that's there subconsciously. You need to believe, when you put your head in the pillow at night, that, you know what, I can't wait to get cut into these boys tomorrow and turn them over. And I know I can do it. And if you fall short, so be it. That's sport, that's football. But I'd rather die trying than not actually have a full cut at them at all. And I don't mind setting up tactically, to get ourselves into the game and reduce Dublin's impact in the initial couple of minutes and obviously in the championship quarter. But after that, you have to throw the shackles off and go, let's go for it.
Can I ask you, I'm not very close to the county board, and every county always has issues with its county board until they win All Irelands. And even then, they'll have issues with the county board for whatever reason. But I've definitely heard stuff about the under-20s having to fight for expenses. I've definitely heard stuff about proper reports being done about what needs to happen in the future of Kildare GAA. They get the report and it gets shelved, and none of the recommendations are actually implemented. What's your understanding of how the game is being run and how long-term planning is actually being implemented?
Yeah, I suppose, like, the first thing to say with all county boards, including Kildare across Ireland, is that, these positions are kind of voluntary, and people give up a huge amount of time and effort to do it. And that being said, sometimes the counties now that have leapfrogged and have held a position of dominance have people in positions of, say, control or authority in the county board that are like for like private sector roles, i.e. a CEO of a company and a CEO on a county board, a financial controller and a financial controller on a county board, an operations manager in a company, an operations manager on a county board. We don't have that as far as I'm aware in our setup. Now obviously they're very, very capable individuals in there in the different sectors of the county board, and there's some wonderful people, and I'm not knocking them whatsoever, but from a change in the guard point of view, individual managers or coaches, or like Johnny Doyle involved in underage setup and that, you've got Cormac Kerwin there involved in operations. People can do certain things on an individual basis, but it comes from the top down, and I don't feel that we're run like a business and accountability like a business, which is needed if we're going to jump. Because from an expenditure point of view, like, I don't know where we are in that ranking, and it's one thing spending money, it's another thing getting value for that, and they're strategic decisions that need people with the same skill set to be able to implement them and have an overall view to be able to have a long-term strategic plan. And I suppose, to give an example of what I felt this year, and I was kind of open about this, was a very short-term view, was Brian Flanagan is the manager of the under-20s. He's a good friend of mine. played with him for years. Mark Scanlon was a strength and conditioning coach, played with him for years with Kildare, and Emmett Bolton, so played with him for years, and he was in the selector. So there's 3 guys who were involved with Kildare senior football who are now involved in 20. So you'd say, okay, that's a plus from the Kildare County Board that they chose individuals when these guys put their hands up, right? So that's a plus. But then a negative is that when Brian Flanagan looked to have certain players released, they weren't available for him. So you had guys who were involved with the Kildare senior team that weren't able to play for him. And the main individual here was Alex Byrne. And I felt so sorry for Alex Byrne getting caught up in this, because he's only a young guy. And I suppose he might have perception of what people thought of him. Maybe they thought it was him making the call. But the Kildare chairman should have said to Jack, look, Jack, this guy's only a young chap. This is last year in the 20s. He's very important for the team. He's a fellow peers and the management to have him in place. And you know what? It might help us get it over the line against Westmeath, and for having players to get momentum and help bring them forward. Because ultimately, surely the goal is to bring as many players forward that can play senior football with Kildare. And it's a very short-term view that Alex wasn't released to play on the midweek game for the 20s. They lost by 2 points. They'll put their hands up and say they should have got the job done themselves. But you take any senior player out of a setup when the game comes to the crunch time, they're the guys you want on the ball to help calm the storm.
Yeah.
And he wasn't available.
But that's what happens when you have...
and couldn't play the team.
Well, what happens when you have...
That's short-term view.
But it's always going to be short-term when you have a manager from outside, because his gig was exclusively the senior gig, and you bake in that issue from the get-go. Look, we're almost out of time here, Aindriu. Very quickly, the contenders. Is Davy Burke the only realistic contender at this point, or are there other contenders as well who are worth talking to?
Like, obviously Davy has to be talked to and has to be given a fair audience, you know. But there's Glenn who had put his hand up for this role previously and was taken away from him. Davy felt the same, because obviously he released a statement of similar wording, you know. You've other individuals, like I mentioned, Brian Flanagan. You've got Anthony Rainbow, who's obviously done very well in Dublin. But Tom Gribben is there, who's involved with Westmeath. He's obviously involved in the Kildare setup now. And my gut on this is that the county board would probably choose Tom, because they know him well. He's a very successful businessman, very good at planning, but they know him quite well because he's been involved for the last number of years. And it might be the easy decision, is for a better word. I'm not saying anything against Tom, you know, because he's actually my minor manager when I was minor. But my gut on it is that that's who they will appoint. But like, I think the Kildare County Board have to reach out to Davy and Glenn, but I don't think it's their job to reach into the county board, because they've already set for interviews and it was a little bit thrown back in their face. And you can feel for Glenn in particular kind of going, well, why would I put myself in a situation to be refused by the same individuals? And Davy is similar, you know. He felt hard done by. He went off and managed Sarsfields. They think they have a very high regard for him. Went off and done great things in Wicklow. But them two individuals will definitely rock the boat in terms of what they're looking for and what they demand to try and push Kildare football forward, which is a good thing. But my gut on it is that maybe they'll choose Tom to push forward with. But look, all we have to do is take one quick look at the hurling manager. You know, with David Hurdy, what he has done for his players. He's not local. You know, like,
no, that's
still
the
rather
thing.
a Kildare person have the job. But he still rallied all them players and the communities, and the hurlers got a real buzz going in their camp and got the momentum for it. And the hurling chairman done great work, and it's very impressive, you know, what can be done.
Yeah.
So you can imagine if you had a Kildare man at the head with the passion that they shut.
The line is just breaking up there at the last moment there, but we definitely understand exactly what you're saying there. Aindriu Mac Lochlainn, thanks a million for joining us this morning. Just for the record, David Hardy's doing a brilliant job, a massive supporter of him. So this isn't about no one from outside can be influential or can help. It's like you've got to find the right person. You've got to find people who are actually committed to you for the medium term at least. Like, anyway.
And also,
we never get to talk about Kildare in this show.
I mean, it's great.
The only reason we get to talk about it is because they had a Kerry manager, and you insisted that we do.
That's why you bring in a foreign manager, because you get talked about in the media. That's the whole point about it.
When McGeaney was manager, every Kildare match was televised for a couple of years in a row, and they would happily end up going through the back door, and so all of a sudden you were watching matches with Kildare every single game. There was a couple of years there where I was like, obviously their box office. McGeaney was box office. That was it.
Yeah, he certainly was. Like, I guess what you need when you're bringing in a manager from a different county is their complete and utter buy-in to all levels of the sport in which they're involved in. Are they going to allow the under-20 manager to come in and look at a few sessions? The same with the manager, a couple of the under-20 players to come in and sample the lifestyle of a senior inter-county footballer. Or
Stephen Kenny approach.
Well, exactly. There are a lot of similarities between these two conversations. It does feel that there is a lot of what Dion was saying earlier about Stephen Kenny, I think, can be said about Kildare and indeed Kerry, to be quite honest with you. And I think a lot of what Aindriu was saying about Kildare can actually apply to the Republic of Ireland as well. And in fairness, it does seem that the Stephen Kenny decision in the first place was maybe a realisation that appointing from within, appointing somebody who has been through the system and understands the system, is vital to the success in the long run for the senior team. And I think that goes for inter-county football and hurling too.
Yeah, I'd be very interested to see what Packy Bonner thinks and all this, given that he's now a non-executive director on the board and who is somebody who can have a long-term view of football. 31 minutes past 8 this morning here. If you want to get in touch with us, we'd love to hear from you. 087 180 180 is the WhatsApp number, or of course you can leave a comment in the YouTube stream. We'll get to some of those comments in a moment. The Republic of Ireland against Serbia is live on Off the Ball tonight. Stephen Doyle is on commentary duty alongside Stewie Byrne. He's with us now. Stephen, good morning to you. How are you?
Morning, Ger. Morning, Eoin. Morning, everybody.
What has your research shown about what we can expect from our opponents tonight? Where are they going to cause some trouble for us?
Well, I'm afraid it's going to be probably how they caused us trouble when we played them in Belgrade back in March and beat us by 3-2. You might remember young striker by the name of Vlahovic, just 21 years of age, plays for Fiorentina, and he's kind of the next new hot talent for Serbia. He scored the opening goal before half time to make it 1-0. To 1-1, because Alan Brown obviously had scored for us. But basically, Alexander Mitrovic, who bagged a couple of goals against Luxembourg in their game at the weekend, they beat Luxembourg by 4-1. He's got a broken cheekbone by all accounts now. He did say, apparently, to the Serbian media that he's okay to play. As you know, these Serbs are made of tough stuff, and it takes a lot for a player like Alexander Mitrovic to be ruled out of a match. So he said he's okay. Now, whether they're going to take a risk on him, I suppose they do have to think about sending him back to his club as well. And it might seem a bit foolhardy if they're to play a guy with a serious injury like that. But if he doesn't play, they've got a ready-made replacement in Vlahovic to come on, and he is really quick. He gets on, he likes to get between the centre backs, get on the shoulder of the defenders, and he's a really good goal scorer. If Mitrovic plays, obviously he's bang in form. If you look at the list, I don't know if you've seen the list of top scorers in this tournament. He's top of the list. He scored 7 goals.
We have it up there now.
So far, Mitrovic.
So Mitrovic is 7, Lewandowski is 6, Zahavi of Israel is 6, Lukaku has 5, Memphis has 4, Harry Kane has 4, Adabuksa of Poland has 4, and Yilmaz of Turkey has 4. We don't seem to have anybody on that first page of top scorers there.
None, Ger. And actually, interestingly enough, Israel also have a guy called Dabur who's scored 3 goals. So that's 9 goals for Israel from their 2 best scorers. And it really does go to show you, if you've got a finisher in there, it's such a big help. And I think that's why it's going to be important for Callum Robinson to start for us tonight, because as I said before the game on commentary on Saturday, he's in real good form with West Brom at the moment. He's got 3 goals in his opening 3 matches. So to see him starting tonight would be a bonus. So hopefully he does. But to go back to Serbia as well, the other key man for them is Dusan Tadic, their captain, who plays for Ajax. And we've all seen Tadic in action, former Southampton player who seemed to blossom when he went to the Eredivisie club. And we've all seen him in action in the Champions League. He played a big role in Ajax getting to the semi-final that season before they got knocked out by Tottenham, who went on to play Liverpool in the Champions League final. So Tadic is man to watch. He set up the 3 goals for Serbia that night against us in Belgrade. Now, he's only had 1 assist since against Azerbaijan, but he's instrumental in their play. But then they've also got 2 guys on the left. I'm looking at their team from Luxembourg tonight. It is supposed to be they're going to start the same team, depending on Mitrovic whether he starts or not. Otherwise, it's going to be the same team. If you've got on the left-hand side, Milinkovic, Savic and Kostic on the left-hand side. And that's where they did real damage against Luxembourg on Saturday down that right hand or down that left hand side. So our right hand side is going to be really important. Missing Seamus Coleman obviously doesn't help there in that sense, but big night for Matt Doherty. So hopefully he can continue his good form. He played really well against Portugal, but that was obviously on the opposite side, and maybe not so well at the weekend. But whoever plays in front of him as well, the cover for the right back, it's going to be really important. But they're the key men. They've got good players all over the pitch, though, Jerry. You run through their side, like they've got players playing in the top flight. They got two centre backs, Milenkovic and Nastasic, playing their back three. Their anchor man and the man on the left both play for Fiorentina. Vlahovic plays for Fiorentina. They've got a couple of players playing in Sevilla. It's all top flight sides. It's all top flight teams. Unlike ourselves, we're struggling to have players who are either playing for their clubs or playing at a decent level.
Although Mitrovic obviously not with a top flight club at the moment. What makes him such a good international goal scorer? Like, I think sometimes we forget that Mitrovic is still only 26 years of age. I'm sure he's getting well paid by Fulham, even though they're in the Championship, and I'm sure he'll maybe be a Premier League striker any window now. But what is it about him that maybe we see a better version of him at international level than at club level?
He's a poor man's Diego Costa. I think that's how I'd look at him. He's an absolute nightmare to play against. He's physical, he's aggressive, he loves scrapping with a defender, but he's also a really good finisher, as we saw from outside the box against us in Belgrade. He's a very good finisher. I never understood the criticism he got I could understand the criticism because he wasn't scoring goals for Fulham last season in the Premier League, but I don't think Scott Parker gave him a fair crack of the whip. And the other thing as well is when he was playing for Fulham in the Premier League, he didn't have good players around him, whereas he's got that with Serbia. That's such a big thing for strikers. You've got to have good players around you who are going to set you up and get you into positions where you're going to score. And in the likes of Dusan Tadic and Kostic and Milinkovic Savic, he's got these players around him who know where to find Alexander Mitrovic. But he gets into good positions as well, and he's just a nightmare for centre backs to go up against. Now, thankfully, we got Shane Duffy and John Egan in there, who, as we both know, like a scrap. They're well able for the physical stuff. So if they are up against Mitrovic tonight, I think they're going to be well able to handle. If they're up against Vlahovic, I might be a little bit more concerned because he's one of these players, he kind of seems to ghost into good positions without you're kind of, you turn your back for 2 seconds and all of a sudden up he pops and he's popping the ball into the net. So two very different challenges, I think, from those two strikers. But Mitrovic, I think poor man's Diego Costa is definitely the best way to describe him.
So what are we thinking changes-wise from the Republic of Ireland? And obviously Seamus Coleman is one.
Yeah, well, Seamus Coleman, the other thing as well, I think he is going to stick with the back three. The defence, I think, is one of the key things. Everybody's talking about us not being able to score goals. And if you look through the last two campaigns, the Euro 2020 qualifiers, we played 8 matches and we only conceded 5 goals in that campaign. And we played 10 matches in the World Cup qualifying campaign previous to that, and we only conceded 7 goals. We've already conceded 7 goals in 4 matches in this campaign. And I think that's something maybe that's been overlooked. We're not defending well. And I think that's also there, so it's down to a couple of factors. I think, especially at the weekend, I think we lacked a very experienced defender in front of our defence. Stewie Byrne made the point during the commentary on Saturday.
You mean defensive midfielder?
Yeah, but a good, good defender midfielder that's going to be disciplined. As you say, Jared, defensive midfielder, but also one that's going to be disciplined. Like Jason Malumbi is a good defensive midfielder, but he kept going off on these runs during the game, which Stewie Byrne pointed out during the match, and he said, he was trying to be a box-to-box midfielder, and he was leaving Josh Cullen stranded in front of our defenders, and that was leaving gaps, and that's where Azerbaijan found the pocket to score that goal at the weekend. And you felt that if we had somebody like Alan Brown or Jeff Hendrick sitting in beside Josh Cullen and being disciplined and staying there with him and keeping as a pair instead of, going off on these little wandering around the field when the kind of fancy took him. I don't know if you saw that video after the goal we scored against the Portuguese. And it was interesting hearing Jeff Hendrick during the audio of that. We kept saying, stay. It's a different aspect of the game where they were all celebrating Hendrick was saying, like, look, stay here, lads. We're going to waste a couple of more seconds with this celebration before we go back, killing a bit of time. And I think that gave you a bit of an insight into Jeff Hendrick, and that he's got that experience of playing at this level in these big games. He knows these little, just these little tricks and things during the match, just to kind of keep, to give us those little bits of advantage during a match. So I think having an experienced midfielder in there is really key. I don't think Hendrick's going to start tonight. It does look like he's going to go with Alan Brown, I think, and Conor Harahan in midfield, which I think is a little bit disappointing with Cullen as well, because I thought Jamie McGrath did really well against Portugal last week, and I just don't know why a player comes in like that, plays really well, and he's left out. Similarly, I think with Omar Bamadeli, he showed last week that he was, well able to handle himself at this level. I just couldn't understand why he was left out at the weekend against a team like Azerbaijan, where you think he would have been able to really handle himself. But I think he is going to stick with that back three, and he's going to stick Omar Bamadeli in there today with Duffy and Egan, and perhaps have James McClean, as he was at the weekend, playing left wing back, and Matt Doherty as the right wing back. And then he'll most likely play in midfield Cullen, Harahan and Brown, with the two strikers being Callum Robinson alongside Adam Ida as well.
I mean, it's pretty exciting. If Brown plays as well as we know he can, and if Callum Robinson is fit, so I guess some of the decisions they're making are stuff that we're not privy to, and they're based on the stats in training, and they're based on the stats that they've got from the club saying he's at 40%, he's at 70%, he's at 90% capacity. You have to assume that that's the decision making around somebody like McGrath, for example.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because otherwise it doesn't make any sense. You're right.
Yeah, definitely. Well, look, Ger, take for instance, I thought one of the frustrating things at the weekend was, listen, you've been interviewing John Giles for years, Ger, and one of his key philosophies in football is you play your best players in their best positions. And one thing that really frustrated me at the weekend was Troy Parrott. This fella's got bundles of talent. We know that. He's found a new lease of life going out and loading MK Dons. Perhaps not at the level we'd like to see him playing at, but he will get up there eventually, I think. But why was he playing on the right wing? I've seen Troy Parrott playing, for the under-21s. I've seen him playing club football. His best position is either as the, central striker, which is, not his best position. His very best position is playing in that pocket behind the striker as the number 10 in a 4-2-3-1 formation. He's not built to play on the wing. So why was he playing there? Troy Parrott, even you take the goal, one of the goals he scored against Andorra, he got into that little pocket on the edge of the D and scored from that range. And I just thought that's where we need to be getting Troy Parrott in that game during Azerbaijan. I just found it really frustrating. As well, I find James McClean is, he's been such a great servant to us, and he can be, when he's playing really well, he can be a very good player. But he's been asked to play this wing back role, which is, it's not James McClean. Like James McClean playing his best football as an attacking winger, not as a man who's being, loaded with defensive responsibilities as well. And we saw him at the weekend getting forward. He's putting in a lot of crosses, but a lot of those crosses were hitting the first man, which are no use really. And so you want to see a player like that as a flying wing back to be getting to the byline and pulling the ball back and getting the ball into a good position for the strikers to run onto. So I just feel there's been a lot of, Stephen Kenny doesn't know his best team, I don't think. There's been just so many changes from match to match. And that doesn't help with our defensive record, which I mentioned, which has been poor so far.
So 4-4-2 for you gets our best players in the team in their best positions more often?
I know I'd say 4-2-3-1. I think because I do think we need to load up that central midfield area, and if you've got your two holding midfielders and your number 10, then you can drop back to help them out. And Kenny went with that formation originally, but then he seemed to I thought the back three worked well against Portugal because he said himself before that Portugal game that he went to Munich to watch Germany against Portugal in the European Championship, and as we all saw, that formation worked for Germany. And for us as well, to a certain extent, you had 5 attackers going up against that Portugal back four. So you always had an overload on whatever side. And now Azerbaijan was different because we were playing against a side that were really defensively good. This is the thing that's been forgotten about as well. Azerbaijan were really, really good from a defensive perspective. Every time we got that ball forward to Conley or to Parrott or to Ida, they were surrounded by 2 or 3 red shirts. It was impossible for them to find any space. You know, they were pushed up against that Azerbaijan defensive line, and they just couldn't find any room to play. Whereas if you had got those players dropping back, try to draw Azerbaijan out, and then get space and get balls over the top for them to run onto, you might be onto something. But it was just Saturday was just so frustrating because there were so many things I thought that were happening during the game that could have been remedied that just weren't being fixed.
You mentioned that game that Kenny went to watch in the Euros, the Germany-Portugal game, and it did seem that Portugal's weakness was with regards to Germany's wing backs. But I wonder, is there a case, it's not a case, it's almost a fact that Ireland's best players on that night against Portugal were their 2 wing backs. When you have Seamus Coleman and Matt Doherty in those positions, you're probably going to try and utilise them as much as possible. Like, even when Coleman comes back, is the future for this team Matt Doherty at left wing back and Seamus Coleman at right wing back?
I think you've hit on a good point there, Eoin, because before the game against Azerbaijan, Matt Doherty was asked about this, and he said the reason he felt he was successful in that position and why he liked playing there himself was that he felt that the pitch really opens up for him, because then he's playing on that left-hand side, but he can play with both feet. So it means then he can go either side of the defender, which makes it really hard to defend against for the opposition team. So you're kind of thinking, well, you know, maybe that's what we need to do. Can we not play somebody on that right-hand side instead of Seamus Coleman and keep Matt Doherty on that left-hand side where he has shown against top sides that he can cause problems? And, you know, surely Stephen Kenny, you know, spoke to Matt Doherty about this. Surely the coaches have spoken to Matt Doherty about this. And that's another frustrating thing as well. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I don't know. Like I'm sure there is some, you know, rhyme or reason to this from Stephen Kenny's point of view. But when you've got a threat like Matt Doherty, and like that's the best performance we've seen Matt Doherty probably since he was at Wolves, because he really has stagnated since he's moved to Tottenham Hotspur. He's only played 2 matches for them in the Conference League this season. He came off the bench in 1 match in the Premier League. So all of a sudden he gets put into this position on the left wing, and you know the game just opens up for him, and he plays tremendously well. So when you found something that's worked for you like that, why not stick with it?
All right, Stephen, give us your prediction. You were, I should tell everybody that you were completely accurate. You predicted a 2-1 win for Portugal against Ireland. You said Portugal got to be a bit blunt up front, and you thought Ireland would score, and all of that came to pass. Probably not in quite the exact fashion that you envisaged it, but
yeah.
What's going to happen tonight?
I heard Dion earlier predicting a 1-1. I was kind of thinking, you know, I've kind of feeling a 1-1 the last 24 hours. But the more I think about our poor defensive records and the changes in defence happening so much, and what Serbia have up front and some of the players that they've got around the strikers, I think we could be in for another night of pain. I think we could get beaten 3-1 here tonight.
All right, Stephen, on that note, we'll tune in this evening, and maybe it's better to listen rather than watch. Good stuff.
Thanks,
Stephen, Stephen Doyle come to you tonight alongside Stewie Byrne. Show starts at 7 o'clock, obviously, off the ball on News Talk. And the best place to listen to that these days is on OTB Sports Radio. You just say, Alexa, play OTB Sports Radio on TuneIn. Or, hey Google, or is it OK Google? It's Hey Siri and OK Google, isn't it?
I'm not sure, to be honest. No, something beeps. Yeah. There you go.
I didn't catch that. Can you try again? No, thanks. 8:48 this morning, OTB AM brought to you by Gillick. Good mornings. Start with Gillick. Put your best face forward with their new and improved razors. Here's Stephen Kenny reflecting on Ireland's recent performances. Have a quick look.
Our performances overall in this campaign have been, bar the Luxembourg game, which we were very disappointed with, our performance have been good overall. I think with Serbia and Portugal in the group, and the spine been ripped out of the team, and we haven't qualified for the World Cup since 2002, did anyone think that we were favourites to qualify, or that we should qualify? You know, we certainly have a plan in place, and that, like, I've taken the decision, right or wrong, that we would build a squad to be a really, really competitive team to qualify for Germany 2024. Okay, now we did not try and win the games. We went very close to winning Serbia and winning against Portugal. Okay, away from home. We scored first goal in both games. We're brilliant football in both games. So I think I've taken that decision, and collectively we did. And that's why, I think, last weekend's Azerbaijan was a good occasion. The supporters were brilliant. We started brilliantly. Couldn't get that goal. They've scored a goal in 25 yards. They defended deep. We threw the kitchen sink at them. You know, so many attempts on goal, and we missed the target. Our finishing could have been better. We have only ourselves to blame in that regard. But I think there's real progress overall, to be honest, and that's the way I see it, and that's why my staff see it, and all the coaches see it. And there's a lot of people behind that. There's a lot of people who aren't, who just see, well, you're in a resilience, but that's not your job to develop the game here. That's not your job. Your job is just to win the next match. That's your job. And you know, that kind of nearsightedness doesn't create anything. You might beat teams you shouldn't beat, but you'll never beat the teams that you know you can strive to beat. So you're trying to build something that can actually be tangible over a period of time, and that can be successful. And that's the way I see it.
I mean, look, we could definitely have Big Sam in there in those press conferences instead. Which do you want? I realise it's not either or. You know, there are other managers out there. Which do you want, folks? It's your choice. Tonight, the crowd needs to back Stephen Kenny, or they need to make their voices known. I think ultimately the FAI is going to make decisions based on largely on the crowd as much as anything. This whole notion about the sponsors dictating who the manager is going to be, or I was like, come on now. Are you telling me that any of the other managers is going to immediately bring a sponsor? Roy Keane might, maybe there will be brands who will immediately jump on board because Roy Keane will bring box office and they'll bring the reporters from the UK. But I don't know. OTB AM is brought to you by Gillick. Good morning. Start with Gillick. Put your best face forward with their new and improved razors. Now, David Gillick is joining us on OTB AM this morning to launch the European Week of Sport 2021 in partnership with Sport Ireland. European Week of Sport is a week-long celebration of sport which promotes physical activity in people of all ages, background or fitness levels. Sport Ireland is calling on you and your family to get out, and the hashtag is BeActive between the 23rd and the 30th of September. And who knows, this may be the start of a newfound love for sport. For more information and to find an event near you, go to sportireland.ie/European Week of Sport.
David, good morning to you. How are things?
Hey lads, how are you? You well?
Yeah, good. I just wanted to pick up here at the top because I saw you bemoaning the lack of success coming Dublin GAA's way over the last little while on Twitter. What's it been like to suffer such pain this summer?
Yeah, like I brought Oscar, my 5-year-old, to Croke Park for the first time. Dublin played Mayo and they were beaten, and then we went in on Sunday to watch the women up against Meath and they were beaten. So it's 0 from 2 for Oscar. But yeah, look, I suppose it's a changing of the guard in many ways. I remember the lean years standing on the hill where we couldn't even win the toss, you know. So hopefully they'll come around again. A lot of changes of personnel, particularly on the men's side, you know. People kind of at the twilight years of their career, maybe. Changing of the guard. And it's kind of something that we're not really kind of used to over the last number of years. But like I said, it's an opportunity maybe to redress, refresh, and then go again.
Are you still playing a bit yourself?
No, I unfortunately I ruptured my pec about 2 years ago, and I had to have surgery on it early of this year. So I haven't kicked the ball since, you know. So I don't know, like it's one of these things. My local club, Ballantyre, my brothers are involved in it. So it's very hard to retire from GAA at club level, you know. So there's about 5 adult teams up there as well. So they'll probably find somewhere for me.
They just keep coming back. The brothers will keep texting you. Standing goals there, David.
I'm telling you.
Tell me, are your kids going to be athletes? Are they going to be GAA players? Have you thought that far ahead, or have you started to think about participation yet, and what kind of the future of their sporting life might hold?
You know what? Like, it's a really interesting question because, like, as I said, Oscar's 5, Olivia's 3, and then we've got little Louis who's only 5 months, and you know, Oscar's now getting involved in the local academies. And I think, you know, I just look back to kind of what my parents did and just threw us all into like as many different sports as we could kind of do. So he's involved in the GAA Academy. He's involved in Bradford Rovers Soccer Academy. And next I'll probably throw him into maybe little athletics, obviously with my own athletic background. So it's kind of more just like, if he's enjoying it, we're lucky because he's got cousins the same age in the same area. So they're all kind of getting involved, and it's just a big fun thing. And like he got a great kick out of going to Croke Park, and we're heading to the Aviva tonight. I know it's a school night, but we're bringing him in there. Olivia came into Croke Park as well there on Sunday, and it's more just if they can get involved. Like Oscar's mad into football right now, and he wants jerseys. This is the latest and greatest thing, jerseys. And if you get him a jersey and he gets involved and he wears it going training, well, at least he's happy and he's enjoying it. So again, from my own background, I think the more sport you can put your kids into, the better for long-term development and stuff like that. But right now it's just more about fun, and if I can tire them out for a little bit, well, then I might get an easier afternoon.
How do you feel about competition and striving to be elite?
Yeah, like it's one of these things. Sometimes I kind of feel, because of my own background, that do I put pressure on them, and am I pushing them into things that maybe that I would have liked to do? And I'm very conscious of that. And again, when I turn up, sometimes people might go, "Oh, like you've got an athletic background, will you coach?" And particularly like with Oscar and Olivia, I don't always want to be their coach in the sports. I want to be kind of a little bit behind and let them just get involved and do it for themselves. And I think, the whole kind of eliteness, I do look at kind of sport and I kind of go, okay, well, like if they are talented, at a sport, if I could pick a sport, like I'd love it to be a sport that maybe they could travel the world and, make a living from it and secure themselves if they were very talented at it. But right now, I don't even think about kind of the eliteness side of it. It's more just trying to get them out and keep them engaged and keep that fun element to it, Like the elite and kind of high performance side will come, but, right now as a parent, it's just solely about like just getting them involved in.
So you wouldn't put them off if they were interested in elite and high performance? And just because, it wasn't a straightforward line with you in your career. There was definitely downsides to being, particularly in an individual sport.
Yeah, look, absolutely. Like it's, I think when I started, I never thought about, I dreamt about the Olympics and, world champs and stuff like that. It's the stuff that I watched on TV, but I never really kind of focused too hard on it, particularly through my kind of early teenage years. And it was only, like I was 19 when I decided, right, I want to give athletics a crack. I was still playing GAA. I was playing soccer till I was 16. So, it wasn't as if I just solely focused on the one sport early. And that's the one thing I would try and do, is keep them in sport numerous sports for as long as possible, because I think it gives you a better grounding and obviously kind of development. But, I think that will come. I don't think that early specialization really kind of works. So again, in my kind of perspective, it was very much you just enjoying it. And I think that's the big thing that keeps kids and keeps anyone involved in sport, is once you're enjoying it. And I think the eliteness will come in time. Once they're progressing and that motivation will come from that, and they're going through the teams and they're playing them for the top team, whatever that is, well then it'll breed itself. And I think it's just try to support that as best you can. But I don't think right now I'm kind of looking at Oscar going, right, he's going to be a double midfielder, he's going to be up front for Ireland. Like it's very much just get out there and run around.
Make him a striker. If you can, make him a striker. We could do with somebody to score some goals.
we could definitely, yeah. But if he's like his dad, now I wasn't great, up front, but I had a bit of pace, but I couldn't finish my dinner, as they say.
The post-mortem from an athletics perspective for the Olympic Games obviously is underway. I presume there's huge amount of conversations being had in Athletics Ireland about what they've learned and what they haven't learned. What as somebody who was trackside, what are your takeaways from the Olympic Games? How well did we do, and what do we need to improve on?
Yeah, like it's such a broad question, if I'm honest. And I think, like it was mixed. I'd say it was mixed. Like there wasn't doom and gloom. Like we did have good performances there. We had a lot of youth in that team that probably benefit from the extra year in order to hit qualification and quota marks. And they kind of went, and you would have looked from those athletes, particularly say all the women in the 800. You had Flanagan from up north who ran very well. Like, they're all very young, and I think when you get that exposure to a global championships, it was fantastic. Obviously in Olympic Games, I think some of our stars we would have really liked maybe to get into a final. Ciara McGeehan, Tom Barr, but no discredit to them. They performed well. Like Tom didn't run too bad. It was just he didn't make the final. His event is really stacked. Ciara unfortunately got injured, right at the wrong time just before an Olympic Games. So I think you have to factor that in, and you have to also manage your own expectations. I do think sometimes the Olympics comes around and it's like, oh, can we get a medal? we're not quite there yet. So I think our expectations have to be managed. But you're always looking at ways to improve. And you do kind of look, and we talked about high performance. And, you know, from being around athletics, like, you know, if I'm honest, I don't see a whole lot has changed since my time there. I think we need to make some changes in and around how we kind of support our athletes and also their coaches. I think that's one of the fundamental things. And I know there's good people in athletics that are trying to do these things. It just takes time and it takes resources. And I think, you know, from my learnings, there's a huge kind of probably confusion around what high performance is. And I think some people are bogged down in paperwork as opposed to maybe being out on the ground a little bit more and trying to kind of, you know, bring things together. And I mean that by bringing it together by not literally employing, let's say, a sprints coach and expecting every sprinter in the country to relocate. I don't think that would really work in this country. It's trying to kind of maybe bring someone in that can coordinate and support our current coaches, because we do have very, very good coaches who are out there on a voluntary basis supporting all those athletes and helping them kind of achieve their dreams. But it's trying to kind of use those resources that maybe we need to be put into place and support them from afar, and then kind of build that culture a little bit. But, you know, like, we always... Like, I just hope that there is a little bit of a debrief and there is people kind of looking at, right, what can we do? Can we make some changes and see what happens? Like, that's all I'd ask for from a fan of the sport.
Who should do that? Like, is that a Sport Ireland? Is that a Olympic Council of Ireland? If actually they're, I mean, I know they've, sorry, the Olympic Federation. Yes, yeah. Sorry, old habits die hard. It's like, I know they're not really supposed to be involved in the administration of the sport at all, but is it something that they could... You know,
they could, like, there's ways and means. I think, like, you know, the OFI as it is now is a lot more proactive and a lot more athlete centred, and, you know, there is funding that comes from, say, the International Olympic Council through solidarity funding, and that can filter its way down to athletes and indeed individual sports. So that's one kind of, maybe there's an area there where there could be funding available. Sport Ireland again is looking at that high performance pot of cash and trying to kind of, you know, get as much of that as possible, because if we can do that, well, then that will filter into the high performance unit within Athletics Ireland, and that's where the changes and the resources can be kind of implemented, and that costs money. So when you talk about personnel, obviously wages, salaries, that costs money, time. So again, if, let's say, there's a lot of administrative work in relation to kind of high performance, well, then someone may be brought in to kind of look after that element, whereas if you have someone who's maybe on the ground a little bit more, well, then it could free up. So it comes back down to the implementation will be definitely from Athletics Ireland point of view, but the funding would come from, say, Sport Ireland, maybe the OFI, or else you're looking at kind of sponsorship and things like that. But, you know, I do think, like, you know, we can look at it and look back and go, okay, we didn't get any medals, but, you know, it's almost like, you know, when we were hearing Stephen Kenny talk about the youth coming through, you know, I do think right now in athletics, we do have a fantastic crop of juniors and youth athletes coming through. And it's trying to kind of put a structure in place that we can really maximise that, because that's a huge challenge in all sport, is that drop-off between junior and into senior. And if we can just try and really kind of implement a good system in there where we're giving the athletes and the coaches the best opportunity to transition, because that's our Paris 24, that's our LA, and that's our Brisbane. You know, that's what we're looking at. And if we've an opportunity now, and it's only a 3-year turnaround to Paris, so it is pretty important that we start making some waves now. But there is talent there, and there is talented coaches, and it's just trying to, you know, really work to bring that all together.
Having said all that, like, in retrospect, does it make any sense that Rashida Adeleke didn't go to the Olympic Games?
Look, I'll be honest, like, unfortunately for Rashida, she didn't hit the individual qualification, so she couldn't be sent as an individual. And one of the reasons was she was running so well in the States, the NCAAs, but there was not enough points in those classification of meets to get her higher up the world rankings. And then she missed the individual standard by 0.1 of a second, so she was very close over 200 metres. Then you're looking at the relay, the 4x400. And no disrespect to, say, the other athletes that did get selected, I would have selected her for the sole reason of, like, she was young, she's very talented, she's ran well over 400. She may not have ran in Tokyo, but it's that experience. And I think coming off the NCAAs, where she's done very, very well, her first year in the University of Texas, huge lifestyle change, done very well. I would have put her in there just for that sheer experience, because she is our future. And, you know, I don't want to kind of label her and stuff like that, but I've watched her run, I've watched her come up through the ranks, and she has got skills, and it's trying to prepare herself to go to maybe Paris or even beyond. And challenge, and that's what we want. So yeah, I would have sent her for the sheer kind of experience. She may not have ran over there, because I think, you know, the likes of Sophie Becker, Phil Healy were running better over the course of the season. But definitely, I think I probably would have put on the plane.
Yeah. All right, David, great stuff as ever. Thanks a million for joining us. Cheers.
Cheers, guys. Take care.
David Gillick giving us some thoughts there, and obviously that is something that everybody should get involved in. sportireland.ie/European Week of Sport. It is from the 23rd to the 30th of September, and the hashtag is BeActive. A reminder that you can get involved in the conversation this morning. Drop us a comment on the YouTube stream. Give us your predictions for what's going to happen tonight. We'd love to hear from you. OTB AM is brought to you by Gillette. Good morning. Start with Gillette. Put your best face forward with their new and improved razors. What's your prediction?
I think Ireland are going to get beaten 2-1 tonight.
2-1.
2-1.
So we had a 2-1, we had a 3-1, we had a 1-all so far on the show this morning.
I think that the return fixture against Serbia, much like Portugal, was one that we were in studio after the morning after, and everything kind of seemed really positive. And I wonder, could it be a similar situation now tomorrow, considering we were here last week saying they don't stand a chance against Portugal, and really they might have got something from it.
Ireland are 3-1. Serbia are odds on in Dublin to win that game.
Maybe being at home doesn't help. Maybe the best two performances we're going to see from Ireland in this group is going to be in Faro and in Serbia. Maybe that's the reality. The two toughest fixtures where the task is very acute and they know exactly what they need to do, and maybe that's just where this team is at the moment. That's where we'll see the best performances. And there's a slight more, well, there's clearly more pressure on the team tonight than there was for the first Serbian game, and maybe this team is not exactly performing well in those conditions.
We're going to take a quick break. We're back with two more Olympians right after these.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
The Football Pod with Paddy and Andy, our new weekly Gaelic football show with Paddy Andrews and Andy Moran.
We lost that championship game against Donegal. We didn't lose a game for 7 years after that. I tell you, we were angry after that game. Dublin came back, I remember, in 2015. It was, we're putting this right.
I signed with the Rod squad in 2011, that summer. Do you know, like you hear, I signed at the back of the smoke pack. I was not far off that. Roddy, I would say, is like the Irish Harry Redknapp.
Download the OTB Sports app and subscribe to the GAA podcast feed now.
OTB AM.
With Gillette, put your best face forward with our new and improved razors.
Okay, we're going to...
OTB AM.
With Gillette, put your best face forward with our new and improved razors.
We're going to speak with Declan Maguire, Leon Maguire's dad, in about 10 minutes' time after a fairly epic and record-breaking debut at the Solheim Cup, as the Europeans have once again beaten the Americans in golf. We hope that it's a harbinger of things to come for the Ryder Cup, and pretty interesting scenario unfolding in the Ryder Cup qualification, in that at the moment Shane Lowry is in the final automatic place and he's back in action at Wentworth this week. We'll be talking about Wentworth with John Duggan later on in the week in this week's version of Virtual Insanity. That's all to come in the future, though. Right now we're delighted to be joined by EBS ambassadors, Olympians and Ireland's history-making siblings Aidan and Michaela Walsh, following the launch of the 2021 Federation of Irish Sport Volunteers in Sport Awards, which is supported by EBS. The awards will see EBS and the Federation of Irish Sport hero the work of volunteers from around the country who go above and beyond every day to ensure that sport and physical activity take place in Ireland. EBS is calling on the Irish public to nominate a volunteer in your sport who you'd like to see recognised at the 2021 Volunteers in Sports Awards. You can nominate an everyday hero to be with a chance of winning a grand for your local sports club. Just visit volunteersinsport.ie. Nominations can be made by a club, an individual or a sporting body, and they're open from September the 7th to October the 17th, so they're open today. Michaela and Aidan, good morning to you. How you doing?
Good morning, all good. Thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, pretty good. Michaela, can I start with you? Your dad, as far as I'm aware, is the volunteer in your family who helped kick you guys into boxing. How did that all come about?
It was really when Aidan started boxing. My dad used to be a boxer himself, and obviously bringing Aidan down to the gym, and I followed along. He wanted to get involved, so he's been with us from the start, and he'll be with us until the end, so he will.
And that's interesting, because were there many other women or girls, obviously at that stage, boxing in the gym at that point, or would you have been one of the first?
I think I would have been one of the first. When I started, women's boxing wasn't really that big, so it was often hard for me to get sparring and get pads and that there, because you're sort of seen as different in a way. But luckily now, I think women women's boxing and male boxing, it's not separate. It's one. It's just boxing. At the end of the day, we're all seen as a one sport now, which is phenomenal.
And Aidan, if your dad was a boxer, was it always inevitable that you were going to be a boxer too?
Well, he never pushed it on us. He brought us to the gym and just to try it out, me and a few friends. And out of the few friends, I was the one that stuck at it. I think Michaela being there played a huge role in that, because she was a few years older than me, and she was really into it. So I just wanted to sort of follow suit there and always try and progress as she was doing. So I think obviously for my dad to get me into it, my dad being my coach, and then obviously Michaela being my training partner, I think it was a good gel for us to. I think that's why we've all stuck it this far, because we had each other and supported each other the whole way through it.
There's a lot of siblings, Aidan, who when they see their brother or sister doing one thing, they want to do the opposite. Why was Michaela such a positive influence on you?
Just she was the hardest trainer in the whole gym out of all the boys at the time, and she was the only girl in the gym, and she was out training all the boys. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. At a young age, not realising, but I wanted them to be the hardest trainer. And so it was always a healthy competitiveness to always train hard and push each other. And we've done that there. And even from our gyms at local level, right to the highest level of being on the Irish Olympic team, training together and pushing each other, it's been an incredible journey.
Michaela, what's your earliest sense of actually being good at boxing and that your brother was good at boxing as well? Like, when did you start making Ireland teams or winning titles and thinking, actually, you know what, this is cool?
I remember when I think it was around 15, I was selected to go to the first ever European Junior Championships, and I came back with a silver medal. And sort of then I was like, I must be good if I'm winning medals at this stage. And I always say Aidan was always better than me. Growing up, I think that's why I sort of try to train as hard as I could to sort of make up for not maybe having that talent so early on. And but the hard work stuck with me, and I kept working as hard as I could at the time to get better, to get on the Aidan's level. But he was always a step ahead of me, so I always try to push myself to try and be as good as him. I'm still trying as well.
So Aidan, what age are you when Michaela's coming back at 15 with a European silver medal?
I would have been saying maybe 11, 12.
Right.
So I probably was only starting to fight then, because I joined the gym when I was 9. So, and you aren't able to fight competitively until 11. So then for years I was just having loads of gym boots, and my dad was taking me all around the country having gym boots. And I was lucky enough when Michaela was going to the likes of Dublin to train, and my dad would have took me. So I was always sort of in the mix. And before I even went to the National Stadium for my first All-Irelands, I'd already seen it all and I'd already been there. So for me, it helped me massively that Michaela was that few years older, and I'd experienced it all. And even going to international tournaments as I got older, I sort of experienced the sort of atmosphere of what it'd be like coming back with a medal, what it would feel like, what way it would affect our family and things like that. And it was all positive. So I think that gave me the buzz for it as I got older, and it paid off for me.
Obviously, those trips down to Dublin were pretty important then, Aidan. I mean, was there local role models as well in Belfast that you looked to, outside of your own sister, obviously, that you thought, right, that's who I want to be, or they have paved the pathway almost for someone like me to step up to the mark?
Of course, like when I was younger, like 2012, it was when Michael Cannon and Paddy Barnes came back to Belfast with the bronze medals. And I actually seen a video the other day, and I'm in the background of there was an open top bus in Belfast, and you see me in the background. I'm only a kid, and it's like, what? Because I was always familiar with training with Mick and Paddy in the Woody Family Boxing Club. They would have been there training, and to watch them, and we were always in sparring the likes of Mick and Paddy, and always competing in the gym with them. So it was great. So, and then now to actually be in the situation that they were, coming back from Olympic Games with a bronze medal, I have to pinch myself sometimes, because I'm still to this day looking out as a young kid of someone winning an Olympic bronze medal, and for me to contemplate that that's me now, it's very hard to believe, because for years and years you're always that kid, and I still am, and I just want to learn and grow as a boxer. So it's amazing, and to have the support obviously of my sister and my father, and it's great.
How much does that help when you're in the high performance unit then? The idea that winning medals isn't an overachievement for Ireland. In fact, it's actually the norm and the expectation when you're going to an Olympic Games.
I think that helps spur you on, because, you know, like obviously Belfast is a great boxing city, as is Ireland, is a great fighting country. So I think you have to believe in yourself and believe that people's done this and more, so you can do it yourself. And especially when you're training alongside guys and girls who have done this before, it gives you great self-confidence in yourself and knowing that you've got what it takes. And especially if you're training with them and you're keeping up with them and you're competing. And it's the same now. If it was younger, maybe kids coming and training with us, I would love to do what other people done with me, help me, give me advice in the gym, different wee bits of advice. Like when I first went on to high performance, all the older athletes were great with me, giving me advice and always got answered the questions that I asked, that what was good advice, what was bad advice. And I would love to be in a situation now if anyone came to me that I had advice that I thought was done me well, that could help them. And so it's great that way.
Michaela, we obviously know that this is a shorter Olympic cycle to Paris next time around than the previous one.
Yeah.
Does that make a difference just in terms of the thinking? I know 3 years is still a very long time. The whole world will be a different place in 3 years' time in loads of different ways that we don't even contemplate right now. But at the same time, from a sports cycle, it comes quite quick. There's major tournaments, there's qualifying events, and you can pretty quickly map out life between now and then. Have you even begun to think like that yet yourself?
I have, yes, because obviously Paris for me is the main goal. Obviously after before Tokyo was over with, I didn't know really what I was going to do. Obviously in Tokyo I wanted to go and win a gold medal, but it wasn't to be. But just having that taste of the Olympics, and seeing Aidan win a bronze and see Kelly win the gold, it spurs me on. And obviously there's a lot of tournaments from now to then, so it's good. It gives you something to aim for. Like next year I've got the Commonwealth Games and World Championships, European Championships, so it's good to keep me busy until then. And I'm excited for Paris. I can't wait for 3 years.
What's the value of the experience of going to Tokyo and experiencing what the competition is like at that absolute super elite level? How do you change as a fighter? How do you change your preparation? How do you change your mental preparation? What's the knock-on impact?
Well, just like even being in the Olympics, you're among the best athletes in the world. You're walking around the Phillies and you're seeing Olympic champions, world champions, European champions from all over the world, and you're a part of that elite group. You know, it was a surreal experience, and just watching the guys perform, not only the ones that won medals, but the rest of my teammates and all the other sports. It's just an invaluable experience. I've obviously been to a lot of tournaments before, but the Olympics is just different from the rest. It's the elite of the elite, and I think you can't buy that experience. So just being there and soaking it up. I was trying to learn as much as possible, even being out at the tournament. Just obviously I wanted to gain as much experience ahead of Paris. You know, there's wee tips and tricks going in next time. I'll know what to do. So I just have that in the bag for next time.
And what about you, Aidan? What are your medium term plans?
Of course, my goal is the Commonwealth Games next year. Obviously there's World Championships this year also, and then Olympic Games in 2024. So it's great to obviously be at my first Olympics, and the medal, it was something that obviously you always believe in yourself, but then when it happens you say I realise, and it goes back to being a kid, seeing other people do it, and then you realise yourself you can do it. And I think that's a very powerful thing when you realise that you're capable of doing something. So I'll keep now. I just want to enjoy what I've done. It was a lifelong dream to get to the Olympic Games, and we've done that together. And then obviously the medal between us, that's what I say, we share this medal because we're on this journey together. So I'm just enjoying it at the minute, and I'm just looking forward to the future. I think the way the last sort of 12 months have went with training ways, I think if we can keep doing that every 12 months and just keep on that same schedule, I think we can't go too far wrong.
How is the ankle, Aidan?
It's heal up. I've done absolutely everything that I could to get it back in the shape it was in, and I actually think it's better now than what it was, because the much exercise I've been doing, the physio I've been doing everything asked of me, and at this level you have to do everything asked of you. Yeah, with the right people in place, with the right team in place to give me the right advice. So it's been great, and I'm just making sure that I'm ticking all the boxes with it, and I have, and thank God it's back better than ever.
In every conversation that you've had with anybody that we've seen publicly since the Olympics, you've been very positive. It's been a kind of non-stop positive story. Is there any little part of you that wonders, or there must be a big part of you that wonders what would have happened if you'd been fit to fight the next fight? Is there any part of you that's like, oh my God, if I could just go back and not do what I did?
Oh, of course. Like, obviously, with the injury, I'm going to say to myself, what if? But it goes for everything too. Like, I could have said, what if I didn't qualify for the Olympics? What would I be doing sitting here? So I don't know. It's just one, like, my lifelong dream was to go to the Olympic Games. I went to the Olympic Games with my sister, and then I medalled at the Olympic Games. So it was just, the medal's a bonus. I always remember someone saying that to me years ago. Getting to the Olympics is the hardest thing. Getting the medal is a bonus. So I'm just lucky. I couldn't ask for much more. All I can do is ask myself, is the next Olympics that I go to, try to go one step or two steps further and get a different colour medal. And that's what I'm aiming for. Not only myself, Michaela, and the rest of the team. As long as we can keep progressing, I think that we've got the right team, the right coaches to do that. So it's brilliant. And what if is a big question about everything in life. So, but I'm just grateful to be sitting here, obviously, with the Olympic bronze medal.
You mentioned Paddy Barnes and Michael Conlon. They both ended up going pro. Is that part of your future at all, Aidan? Have you thought about that?
Oh, well, obviously, seeing how well I've done the Olympics, my first Olympic Games, I sort of obviously want more of it. So I believe that I'm good enough to qualify for the next Olympic Games. Fingers crossed, all going well. So, but right now I'm in the moment. I'm an Olympic bronze medalist, and I keep referring back to that because it's hard to believe. I have to keep telling myself that, but I definitely believe that there's another Olympics in me, and I think that I've only been on the Irish team 2-3 years, and then obviously COVID being in between that. So I think definitely there's a lot more to come of me, hopefully, and a lot more learning to do, obviously, for myself and Michaela as well.
And Michaela, have you any interest in turning pro, or have you thought about it?
I have thought about it. You know, there's a few people that would like to see me in Aidan pro, but like I said, my sights are set on the Olympic Games. It was something that I've always dreamed of doing, and I want to go a step further in Paris and get that medal.
Well, listen, we wish you the very best of luck. And I know we're all talking about Paris, but you should absolutely enjoy this little bit of aftermath of the Olympic Games, because, as you know, it happens so rarely. So congratulations on really a brilliant 12 months really that you put together to get to the point you're at the moment. And thanks a million for joining us today. Cheers.
Thanks a million. Thank you. Bye-bye.
It's Michaela and Aidan Walsh there. And as we said, volunteersinsport.ie is the website that they're helping to launch today, to make sure that if you are somebody who knows a volunteer who deserves to be heroed, then Irish Sport Volunteers and Sport Awards, supported by EBS, the 2021 Federation of Irish Sport Awards, will take place. And nominations are open between the September 7th today to October 17th, 2021. Now, a reminder at 9:23 that the Football Pod with Paddy and Andy is exclusively available on the OTB Sports app today and for a 24-hour window. If you have the app, you can get that exclusive access to the final preview special, all for free. If you don't have the app yet, there is no better time to get involved and enjoy OTB whenever and wherever you want. It's the best place to listen to this show every morning, and of course the best place to listen to the evening show as well. Now, all of the newspapers this morning in Ireland are talking about the performance of Leona Maguire. The Irish Times says Maguire the star as Europe retained trophy. She beat Jennifer Kupcho yesterday 5-4. It was in the parlance a thrashing, and it was an absolutely stunning performance from Maguire over the course of the entire Stolheim Cup. Nathan was pointing out that it looks like it is the best performance by a rookie in the history of the tournament, and I'm delighted to say her dad Declan is with us now. Declan, good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning. I'm over the moon, to be honest. Just coming down from a high and not much sleep with it.
I was going to say,
delighted.
Okay, maybe you'll never come down from a high like this, because it is such a stunning. The whole world now understands exactly, probably stuff that you guys have known for a long time, but are kind of sometimes, I'd say, scared to even verbalise what your hopes might be. And then on the absolute biggest stage, when all the pressure is there in a team environment against America, it's like, yeah, I've got this, don't worry.
Yeah, you hear people like Greg Allen, that has watched a lot of golf, talking about Leona there. He had an interview there recently, listened to him, and, he was saying Leona is, like a huge star ready to just burst on the scene. And, you always sort of have doubts in the back of your head, will she get the break? Will it happen for her? And, we were at the British Open there on this the weekend before. And on the Saturday, she had 16 birdie putts and only 2 dropped for her that weekend. And you just wondering, will she get that opportunity to really showcase what she can? And people probably didn't see that because she wasn't in the leading group. But this weekend, she was in the spotlight. And Leona loves the spot. She loves that sort of chance to be in the mix. I think that's when she plays her best, is when the gun is put to her head and it's a head-on head with somebody else. She loves that. She thrives on that.
It's a career that has been very carefully mapped out. It was never rushed to get to the pro ranks. We've obviously seen teenagers turn pro, and there's an immediate burst and there's loads of hype. But actually, she's not an old rookie, but she's a mature rookie in that she's come through so much to get to this point. And clearly, that's a decision that she made along the way herself to be that patient. Where did that come from? Where did that wisdom come from?
I remember Shane O'Grady, our coach, Shane, doing an interview. I forget who the interview actually was with, and that question was asked. Would Leona be turning pro? This was around Lisa as well at the time. It might have been 15, 16 at the time. And Shane, I think, made a very good point to the interview that day was the girls have to be allowed to take each level, achieve at each level, and when they've reached that level, then move to the next level. And ultimately it was Leona and Lisa's choice to go to Duke, but we, looking back, it was the best choice ever because it gave them a chance to, grow up, have a chance to be in college, enjoy college life, and all that goes with it, and yet play in an environment that a great coach out there, Dan Brooks, who instilled that kind of winning mentality in them as well, that you work, anything you get, you work for it. And both Lisa and Leona, have done that from day one, and they have a lot of people to thank for that as well. You know what I mean? Starting with our own local golf course here with Sean Quinn built here. If that hadn't happened, probably never would have played golf. And then the team that's around them, brilliant strength and conditioning team, and Joe O'Connor and my nephew Eoin Maguire, second to none, and nothing left to chance. And then the Sports Institute with Sharon Madigan on nutrition and Julianne Ryan, our physio. That team really, puts everything in place for them. And then the added bonus this year was getting Dermot Byrne as caddy. Leona always in her amateur career, our caddy was my brother Tony, and Tony would be very calm, kept her very calm, let her do things the way she wanted to do them. And Dermot's a bit the same. He has really been dicing on the cake for Leona this year, and our rise in form, I think, this year came about when Dermot came on the bag. And of course, Lisa then's involved with the management company that's there in the background, and that team, I think, has really given her the chance to shine, and I'm delighted she got that chance at the weekend.
Were you chatting to her in the immediate aftermath of last night?
Well, we were actually chatting to the two of them, but a number of my family was here, and I don't know if she heard everything between the singing that was going on, but she was on a high. She just, the night before, she was a little bit disappointed, I'll be honest, the night before when the draw was made. She had hoped to get Nelly Corda. She because she maybe felt that tournament earlier on where they went head to head, that she just maybe left it behind her and whatever, and she maybe wanted a chance to get it on, not just on a 4-ball on a foursome. She wanted a head-on-head with Nelly. But Jennifer Kupcho is a brilliant player, brilliant amateur career, world number 1 amateur. She couldn't have asked for a better match, and she was up for it. She wasn't going to give away that point easy. And from that eagle on the second hole, I think just she had one thing on her mind.
That's really interesting that she wanted to play Nelly Corda. You obviously know her better than everybody, but are you still a little bit surprised with how much she took this week in her stride, and even on the final day wanting to play the very best in the most high pressure scenario?
Yeah, no, I was out there not last summer but summer before, and I caddied for a few weeks when I was off, on the Symetra Tour. And one thing that kind of struck me was when she got on the mix on the last day, that's when she really performed a bit. That's when she really, I know it might say at least or whatever, but that's when she really thrives. She loves that sort of going head to head with somebody, where she has a chance of winning it. That I think that's where she plays her best golf, and that's when she's in. I'm never afraid when she's in that situation. First 2 days always, you're there, you're trying to make cuts. You know what I mean? You might get a bad draw, wind wise and weather wise, and so Thursday and Friday of a tournament normally can be a little bit so whatever. But when she gets in the mix, if she gets anywhere near the lead, that's when she really goes for it, and she doesn't back off. That's the one thing about Leona. She won't back off. If she gets in a head-to-head, it's somebody who's saying she is a silent assassin. She will. It's steely eyes, and she will bring her game there. She won't leave anything behind her.
What is the planning for the plan for the homecoming?
Well, she's home tomorrow morning at 9, so we'll definitely have a homecoming for her. We have to have a homecoming for her because, Leona's the last 12-14 months, it's been tough for her because a lot of the time she's had to travel alone, where people maybe don't understand, she's going to a tournament. They have to keep just with their caddy in a small bubble. They can't even go to restaurants. They have to, get food ordered in or collected and eat back in the hotel. So she's had a very, very, restricted lifestyle. And the same when she comes home, she's always very careful. She's had to be careful because, there's so much testing going on the tour. You can't afford to kind of slip up because if you do, you're out of the tournament or you're maybe 2 tournaments, 2 weeks out or whatever. So, but we will. Planning's going on today. We had my own family here last night, and we had a terrific night. And I think we will plan a homecoming for tomorrow morning.
And is there going to be like a Cavan tour of the Solheim Cup?
I'm not sure. We'll work it out today. I know the Slieve Russell have been on to Breda there, but what they're going to do. But
you want to go to the schools. You want to bring it to the schools so that the next generation, like Sam Maguire.
Yeah, she'll visit the school. In fairness, now our school has been is well decorated and has been since last week. So, and the children will be looking forward to seeing her. And I hope now she'll pay, even if it's a short visit to the school. So,
I don't know, Declan, if you were familiar with that. We were doing a Mount Rushmore of each of the Irish sporting counties, and Leona was straight on it. Paul Fitzpatrick, in fairness to him from the Anglo-Celt, was taking no argument. She was straight on it last year, and it might have been on potential, but she's certainly delivered in spades now. Like, that's the level that we're talking about here. It's like immediate Irish sporting legend by being a trailblazer, as much as then when you get there, doing even better than your wildest dreams.
Yeah, that's it. No, Paul has been sort of singing Leona's praises for a long time, and I know he stuck his neck out, and some people say now, what has she done here, there, whatever. You know yourself, it is a long road, and you need a break along the way. You need a few things to drop for you at the right time. Lisa said it last night. I think we knew all along she was incredible. You know what I mean? The round in Evian, albeit, she just maybe wasn't in the mix going into that. Had she been in the mix, it would have been, she probably would have got the full credit that she probably deserved for that. I'm just, over the moon that this weekend in particular, people got a chance to see that, she's not just lucky, she's played against the best. She's played brilliant golf. We're so proud of her, Shane O'Grady, has deserves huge credit for what he's done in terms of our golf swing and our golf approach to it. And she'll probably be, when she comes home within a day or two, she'll be back up in Blackbush with Sheahan, and they'll be looking to the next tournament. This one then will be parked, and it'll be trying to get that first win on the LPGA. That'll be the next step, and that'll be the plan kind of going forward. She won't stop at this. Leona's not that type of character that she was very emotional probably this week, and she showed a different side to her, that we can see at home and other people that know her well. But on the golf course, she'll be back to business when she gets back on the tour. She'll take a break for a wee while now, get herself recharged, and she will be going guns high for the next tournament and for the tournaments that are, you know, for the rest of the year, because all the tournaments coming up now, she's played them. She's played the courses, you know, last year, at the back end last year. Up to this, she probably hasn't played many of the courses, so they were all new kind of tour this year. So hopefully better things ahead as well.
Yeah, look, you mentioned Lisa a couple of times there, and having her as part of the backroom team, like, it must be an incredible comfort blanket. It must be great for you guys sitting at home, knowing that there is somebody with eyes and ears who she can completely trust, and who actually understands exactly what she's going through.
No, that Lisa went out earlier on, just when Dermot went on the bag. Lisa went out at that time too, and she got finished in college or whatever. And Lisa's very steady, you know what I mean? Lisa doesn't let Leona get carried away with anything, you know. She knows when to tell Leona, you know, you need to focus on this or that. You know, Lisa's been there herself, you know. She won at the top level. She won European individuals amateur level. She was there with her all through her career in Duke. And you know, when Leona was on the Symetra tour, you know what I mean, it is a break, because they're twins after all. They've done everything together. You know, when they started golf from the Steve Russell, I remember the first goal I remember was always, there was a driving range and there was a kind of stretch of grass and then there was a road, and the first goal was to get the ball over the road. And Lisa, being a little bit stronger when they were younger, used to always, and I used to, you know, it used to be a kind of a treat of a crunchy or something like that to get across the road. And I remember in the beginning, Lisa could, you know, manage to get 3 or 4 balls over. So what we always did was, Lisa, if she got 2 balls over, Leona got the crunchy as well. So they've been, you know, they're very strong bond. They're, you know, when they're home here, they're in the same room. They do everything together. You know, Lisa is really steady and influence. She plans everything out, you know. There in Scotland, when we were in Scotland, we drove over then, you know, ourselves, and they were in their own bubble. But again, Lisa's into the car. Leona doesn't have anything to worry about. Her flights are booked, accommodations booked. You know, everything is sorted by Lisa, and you know, that's a big part of it. You know, we'd love it that Lisa was there full time. You know, Lisa wants to pursue, you know, her dentistry career as well. But you know, as much as possible, when Lisa can be there, Lisa will be there, and she has a huge bearing on what Leon has done this week. You know, Breda was supposed to be out. My wife Breda, she got a waiver to go out, but unfortunately, Breda's mother's quite ill at the moment, and she had to cancel the flight at the last minute. So, but Lisa has done a terrific job this week, and she's been there, you know, with a steady influence on Leona. And when things might be getting, Leona might be getting a little bit excited or whatever, Lisa would take her back there, and I know that, you know, that's Lisa's style.
Well, it's a brilliant partnership, and look, I think certainly everybody in Ireland became familiar with both from the Ryder Cup in 2006. That was a lot of pressure in some ways, because we were always kind of waiting for the moment like this week to arrive. But the fulfilment of that potential, that's the best part about this story, is that we, you know, something that you can hope for actually comes true.
Yeah, no, that was a brilliant moment. You know, they brought the Ryder Cup up, and they got backstage as well with Tiger and Sergio, all the different characters. Got to meet Paul McGinley, and you know, I'd be remiss of me not to mention Paul McGinley. Leona had a very good phone call here a day or two before she left to go back to America for the Solheim, from Paul McGinley. And Paul, the advice he gave her, you know, was second to none. You know, having his experience, you know, as a Ryder Cup captain and vice captain, the advice he gave her was, you know, it basically everything that he said to her came true. You know what I mean? How she'd react to the crowd, how she'd, you know, in terms of partners, you know, when it got into a situation where, you know, she was head to head, or, you know, I mean, things were tight or things didn't go away, whatever, how to react. And I have to thank Paul, and I'm sure Leona would be forced to say that as well, that Paul's advice was second to none. It really hit the nail on the head. Everything he said to her in that conversation, you know, I can guarantee you she went back to that after every round this week. You know, Paul's advice was in the back of her head.
Listen, it's an incredible story. She's become a role model, a hero, a trailblazer, and she's still only a kid herself. So there's like another 15, 20, 35, 40 years of achievement that we can look forward to from her. Congratulations to you and the whole family. We wish you the very best, Declan. Thanks a million for making the time.
Thanks a million. Thank you, and thanks for the support.
That's Declan Maguire there, a very proud father, and that homecoming, I presume, is going to be painting the entire county blue over the next week or so. A reminder, OTB AM is brought to you by Gillick. Good morning. Start with Gillick. Put your best face forward with their new and improved razors. We're going to have the fallout from Ireland-Serbia. We'll continue the build-up to the Ireland football final tomorrow from 7:30. Where are you off to? Where are you? Mayo first? Tyrone first?
Mayo first.
Should have gone to Tyrone first. You're definitely getting out of Tyrone live.
Well, that's the thing. I also kind of want to watch the All-Ireland down at home this week because I don't want to be anywhere near Croke Park, which would have made more sense to go by Mayo. But there's more to do. Mayo's a bigger county. I need the elongated midweek to get everything I want to get done in Mayo. So let's hope it actually turns out that way.
Are you going to be going to Michaela Park to buy some? What were you not allowed to buy?
Well, I wasn't allowed to buy anything. Nothing was open. It was just me and my thoughts, me and my like really dark thoughts that night.
We should put that out all again this week, just so the people of Mayo know what a Schlieveen you are and what you've said about them in the past.
Well, I'm going back to a lot of people that I spoke to around that time in Mayo, and they've all gracefully welcomed me into their county with open. Well, sorry, no, they've told me that they're going to do that. wait till I get over the border, and actually, it's an ambush.
Yeah, totally. Pitchforks. Burning turf. 9:41 this morning. We're going to bring you Eric Donovan talking about his return to the ring at the weekend, a winning return in Katie Taylor's performance on Saturday night.
Yeah, welcome back. It's Richie McCormick here with you on Monday night's Off the Ball. Still to come, we'll be talking to Dan McDonald ahead of tomorrow night's World Cup qualifier with Serbia at the Aviva Stadium. We're going to have live commentary of that game this time tomorrow night on the show, courtesy of Stephen Doyle and Stewie Byrne. We'll also speak to Breed Stack in the wake of yesterday's All-Ireland Ladies Senior Football Final, which Meath won. I keep saying that out loud for some reason. I don't know why. Against Dublin at Croke Park. We just heard from Vicky Wall and from Monica McGurk just before the break as well. We're going to get Breed Stack's independent assessment of that final on the way after 8:30. And a couple of boxing things to mark a card over the coming days. Zor Antia, the high performance coach for Irish boxing over the last number of years, is going to be joining us here on the PM show. And then tomorrow morning as well, Michaela and Aidan Walsh are going to be on OTB AM talking us through their experiences of Tokyo 2020, as it were, just ending over the last couple of weeks. We're going to continue that thread because I'm delighted to say that we are joined on the line by a man who got back on the horse, as it were, over the course of the weekend up in Belfast, namely one Eric Donovan. Eric, good evening to you.
Good evening, Lucy. How are you?
I'm not too bad. We were just saying, like, looking at you sitting there, and I was watching your post-fight media scrum as well. You look like you weren't even in the ring on Saturday night. If I hadn't seen the fight myself, I need a job convincing that you're actually in action at all this weekend. Not a scratch in you.
Look, to be fair, I could really make this now and say, like, I was exceptional and world class and all that kind of stuff. But to be honest with you, it was just a routine fight against a kind of a journeyman, just to kind of get the rounds in. It's been 10 months since I was in the ring, so it was very important that I got some rounds in, and we move forward now onto bigger and better things. So, like, on reflection, like, it was, it was exactly what I was supposed to do. You know what I mean? It was like it was an opponent I was expected to take care of, and my manager probably would have been disappointed if I didn't take care of him in the fashion that I did. So everything was kind of like expected, but it was good that me and Packy Collins got to have our first fight. We've been training together and working together for the last few months, but we never got a chance to kind of transfer our work from the gym floor onto the main stage. So we got to do that. We got to do that the other night, and I'm very happy how that went.
Give us a little bit of a timeline on that. When did you and Packy get together, and how long has he been working with you, and how has it been so far? How has it differed to what you've been doing before that?
Yeah, well, kind of before that, I wasn't really training in a professional way. Well, I was training like professionally in the sense that like I was very professional in everything that I did. But in terms of learning about the professional boxing game, I was working with Kenneth Egan up until then, and Kenneth Egan, one of the smartest boxing brains in the business, but amateur, amateur legend of the game. But we didn't have that professional experience, neither of us, and we didn't really know what to, like, how best to kind of approach the fights, the bigger fights, and how to navigate them when you get into the deeper rounds. Like so like for an example, against Alpha Barrett, you know, I kind of came unstuck in the latter rounds, not knowing really what to do, and kind of I got exposed in the, you know. So it was after that. So it was about September 2020 that I linked up with Packy, and the reason for that is because myself and Ken used to go over to Packy's gym, and we used to do a lot of sparring there, and Packy's boxers. What I really liked his coaching style throughout the sparring sessions. He would be guiding them through sparring sessions with me, so constantly guiding them through. I liked his language, I liked his style, I liked his approach, and you know, I just thought that, you know, Packy is a wealth of knowledge. He's around the game for so long. He's been involved in the game as far back as his brother Steve has been reigning champion for such a long time. So he's been around a lot of smart people, a lot of knowledgeable people. He's done his apprenticeship in the Petronelli's gym over in Brockton and in Boston. You know, he's been around Hagler. You know, he's just a wealth of experience, a wealth of knowledge, and I just want to tap into that, because it's very, very important that you kind of get that right information in the deep rounds.
Was a change in approach and a change in coaching something that was put to you, suggested to you, something that might be useful to you, or was it done under your own kind of initiative, or was it, I guess, a melding of the two?
Well, to be honest with you, Richie, when I gave up boxing back, I packed in boxing in 2013, and I went back into education, and I felt like I was done with boxing. I spent 3 years in retirement. I was doing a bit of training, but nothing major. I wasn't being competitive, or a little bit of sparring here and there, helping people out. Then in 2016, I decided to kind of come back, you know, and give it. I had a few regrets, and I wanted to put them right. And when I came back, then I set a goal of winning an Irish title. And when I linked up with Ken that time, Ken has been absolutely brilliant. Ken Egan, I'm talking about, he's been brilliant help to me and everything. And I just thought, you know what? With Ken's guidance here, and with what my capabilities, I think I can do an Irish title, and, you know, we'll call it a day. And when I got to the Irish title and we achieved that, I was like, oh, I think I might be raising the bar a little bit low here, you know. And then, of course, when I got the shot against Barrett, you know, I got onto the big stage, the big platforms, and I done really well. And I was kind of like, okay, you know what, maybe there's something left in here, you know. And that was it, you know. I kind of felt like I know ultimately I got knocked out, but I felt like I belonged there, and I knew, and Eddie Hearn had said it as well. I knew, and my manager Mark Dunlop had said, I'm going to get another chance. And I'm not saying that I'm going to get endless chances, but I know there's going to be another chance. I know I'm going to get another shot. And I just said, next time I want to make sure that I have, you know, a good experience, and just kind of just fine-tune the areas that I need fine-tuning in, you know. And even when I mentioned that to Ken that time, he goes, Eric, you're dead right. You know, Packy's over 20 years of coaching experience in the professional game. You know, great move, great choice, you know. So, like, Ken was there the other night supporting me in Belfast as well. It's all good. It's all great stuff, like, you know. But when I hang up my gloves, I want to have no regrets at the end of it all, and I think Packy is the man to help guide me to that European title.
Yeah, you've said recently enough, like, you feel like you're 26 rather than 36, but have you had people around you saying, listen, Eric, I don't know, like, those windows of opportunity are going to be closing over the next couple of years, and, you know, the Zelfa Barrett shot was one thing, but moving on and progressing and getting back there again is quite another at your age. Like, what has your attitude been to all of that?
Yeah, well, I haven't really, to be honest with you, I haven't really had many people kind of, you know, challenging me on the situation. You know, I know the reason I say these things is because I base it on my sparring, and I base it on the sparring partners that I'm getting in the ring with, and their age and their youthfulness, and I'm holding my own and I'm handling myself pretty fine, and you know, I live a good life. You know, I live a very healthy lifestyle. So that's why I know that I'm fresh and able. But you're right, you know, professional boxing, it is, you know, it is a business, and there's not going to be too many keen candidates who want to give a 36-year-old a shot. You know, especially if you've got a 29 or 30-year-old who's pretty, you know, on top at the moment. They're thinking, sure, Eric Donovan will be, he'll be gone out of this sport in another 12 months or 18 months, so I'm not going to give him a shot, So it is going to be hard for my manager to kind of secure that for me. But the thing is, I was mandatory for an EU title shot there back in May. So obviously I didn't get to perform and take on that challenge because I fractured my rib. But look, you move onwards, and it's about me getting myself back into that position where people can't deny me. They can't, they can't deny me the opportunity. And I do really believe that I'm going to get another shot. As I said, I don't think there's endless opportunities for me, but I definitely think there's another shot. And then it's up to me. It's going to be in Eric's own hands then. And it's up to me what I do when I get there.
Like after the fight camp Barrett kind of stuff, Eddie Hearn mentioned that they're he'd try and find another shot for you, I guess, on a matchroom card. Has there been much more talk about that? Has Mark Dunlop, your manager, been in conversations with matchroom, or are you willing to leave that in the back burner for now and take your own opportunities as they come?
Yeah, like Mark's always in negotiations, honestly. Like he he doesn't want to ring me up and tell me about every chat he's having about me, but he's Mark is a brilliant manager, and his record is testament to that. Look what he's done for Tommy McCarthy, James Tennyson, Paul Hyland Jr. He's brought all of his fighters, every fighter that he's worked with, he's brought them to major titles, and he has good connections with Sky Sports, he's good connections with Eddie Hearn and DAZN. So it is only a matter of time before getting me back out there, and it will be on one of those platforms. And look, Eddie Hearn has moved away from Sky Sports, so that means that Eddie Hearn, like, he's with DAZN. It's not a bad thing for boxing. It's actually better. I think it's another additional avenue, another additional kind of platform, because you've DAZN and Eddie Hearn with Matchroom, but now Sky are gone and they've opened up a whole new boxing platform. They've linked up with Boxer and Top Rank over in America, so they're going to have to put on a lot of shows as well, and they're going to need content, so i.e. boxers, to fill these cards. And I'm, I'd be ready when that phone rings to step in, and who knows, I could be in the home corner. It would be great to be in the home corner for a fight. And these are the messages that Mark is relaying across to me. He just told me to keep working away.
Yeah, you mentioned the European title is kind of your goal in this latest chapter of your career. How far away do you think that might be?
Honestly, I could tell you, like, I could get a phone call tonight. I could say, Eric, look, can you box such and such for a European title in 2 months' time, or in 8 weeks or 10 weeks, whatever. Or it also could be next year. You know what I mean? So I don't really know. I'm not, like, I know I'm in the rankings, but I'm not. At the minute, I'm not in the mandatory position, so it's going to take a little bit of negotiation skills from my manager to kind of work out, to get me in there, put me in the picture frame, and hopefully someone gives me that shot. So that's the best I can hope for.
Well, it pays that you're that kind of person then that will, be disciplined and look after themselves and not have that bit of a dip between fights where you just go, I'm going to put my feet up here, I'm going to have that extra slice of Battenberg and a couple of sugars in my tea. Like, you'll look after yourself properly between then. And the fight on Saturday is testament to that as well, because that, with all credit to Laszlo Shaka, it was a box-ticking exercise on your behalf. But mentally, you have to prepare for that correctly, because otherwise you could find yourself in bother pretty quickly.
Well, absolutely. You still have to do your job. It's boxing. If you get in there and you take your eye off the ball, like, all it takes is one shot, one wild, and you man threw a few of them the other night, and all you do is get hit with one of them, and before you know it, you could be embarrassed, and humiliated. The next minute you're on your back. It's boxing. You don't play the sport. It's a very serious game. But I said to Mark, look, Mark, I'm getting married to Laura in October. It's our third time of trying, and hopefully this time we can get over the line. It looks good anyway. So far, so good. So I said to Mark, look, I don't care about honeymoons or anything. If you have a title fight for me, I'm going to work all the way through the wedding, because I do know that my chances at this stage of my career are very, as I said, I haven't got endless. I don't have the luxury to say, oh no, sure, I'll leave it till next year, or leave it till 2 years' time. I am 36, so anything that comes up, I'm kind of like, give it to me, give it, I want it now. And then he said to me, look, Eric, get married, go away on a nice little break, and we'll talk when you come back. And So I'm going to continue training right up until my wedding. I'll have the wedding and have a nice little break, maybe a week or something somewhere, but I'll be training throughout that as well. Not going mad, but I'll be doing a bit, and then maybe I'll have something, maybe it could be another 6-rounder, could be something like I had Saturday night before the end of the year, maybe end of November, early December, and then I think we can talk about more on a more realistic level. I think we can talk about big fights in the early part of next year.
Okay, I just like the way you mentioned after the fight on Saturday that last weekend or the weekend just gone was Laura's, your wife to be's hen weekend. So you just found something to do to fill the time while she was away.
Oh, you want to see what it was like in the house at home? She, like, on fight week, you can be very like ratty and really down, and you can be grumpy and everything. And like Laura's all excited, pumped, ready for her hen. I'm there getting training for a fight, losing weight. Oh, stop! It was comical, but. Laura wanted to bring her hen party to the fight. I was like, you can't do that, Laura. Will you stop? Cause she loves the fight. She hasn't missed one, apart from the one in England with Selfa Barrett, but that's because no fans were allowed. But she's been at all my fights. She's my biggest supporter. And, but look, I told her, like, Laura, go ahead with the hen. She's had 2 failed attempts at the hen as well. So like, you need to be getting these done. So, look, hopefully the next one will be a big one and she'll be there.
How much of a boost was it to have fans in the Europa on Saturday night? I mean, like, it's something that's been so missed. Like, all of these, whether it was Fight Camp or whether it was in studios at BT Sport or wherever fights happened to actually go ahead over the course of the last 18 months, they just felt so flat without a crowd being there and for the boxers to feed off. You, in limited numbers, granted, but still, you had a crowd there on Saturday. That had to have made all the difference to you.
Without a doubt, Richie. Boxing's nothing without the fans, like it's kind of it's a prize fighting sport. It's the entertainment game, you need fans there, it's without fans, it's really as close as you get to a sparring session. It's more or less like a sparring session in the gym, and I've done it twice. I've had 2 fights, during the pandemic without any fans. One was a big one on Sky, and then after that was in Belgium, in a kind of a, well, it seemed like a gym at the time. It's just a big open space, but nobody there, only the boxing kind of personnel, the coaches, the kind of teammates and stuff like that. But the other night was electric, and it still wasn't 100% capacity. It was about 250 or something, 250 I think it was there, and it normally holds 650. But even just having that it meant everything, and having my fans and friends and family be able to come up and it makes it all that more special, when you hear you're introduced, when you hear your name being introduced and your song, your music, and you walk out and you just hear that roar. That's why we do it. We live for moments like that.
Things are obviously opening up over the course of the next couple of months down here. Like, how much would you like to headline or at least play a really significant part in a major card here? And what have you made of the difficulties that there have been in staging the bigger cards down here?
Yeah, boxing has taken a big blow, professional boxing, over the last number of years. And, I just read the other day on Twitter a report that the Tree Arena is going to have its 14th MMA event since the last boxing event in the Tree Arena. So that's really alarming for professional boxing. It's taken a serious blow, and it's kind of after falling back a good lot, and when you think back to the special events, the special nights that we've had, the Bernard Dunn days, the Andy Lee days, and even back then to Collins, and there's been some incredible professional boxing nights in this country, and they're memories that people will hold on to forever, that have been really capturing the imagination of the whole country. And you could see even the Olympics, look how successful that was in terms of boxing. There's no sport, I think, that better than boxing to unite people. It's a great sport. People just really get involved in it, and there's a genuine appetite out there for it. I know that from the kind of response I got during the Olympics, the amount of people that were getting in touch, loving it, absolutely loving it. So hopefully in the next year we can start to see boxing. I know it's coming back into small hall shows now, but I would love to kind of get behind. I would love to kind of carry the mantle maybe and be the man to kind of bring it back, maybe live TV, RTE, something like that, European title fight in Ireland. I have two goals that I would really, really love to make happen. One is winning the European title, and the other is to defend it in County Kildare. That would be a dream of mine, and hopefully, that I can make that happen.
Open air fights in Conlitz Park, Newbridge or nowhere. That's what it's got to be.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
I can market this thing for you. Me and Mark can get in cahoots, and I can kind of look after the marketing aspect, and he can actually get the thing done. We mentioned fights in front of the crowds in the weekend. I know you were obviously busy on Saturday night, so you mightn't have got to see this one live, but you got to see Katie Taylor's latest defence of her undisputed lightweight title against Jennifer Hahn. Again, this almost seemed like another boxing episode for Katie. What did you make of her latest outing?
Yeah, I mean, like, she did what she had to do. She looked strong. She looked dominant. Maybe she's a little bit upset that she wasn't putting her away, because Han is, not the biggest puncher. Of her 18 wins, she's only one knockout, and I suppose she's a light enough puncher. So I suppose Katie was probably expecting to get in there and put her away, because Katie hasn't had a knockout win in her last 7 fights. Her last knockout was back in 2019, and it's the professional game, and they love knockouts. It's just part of the game. The fans love it, and the promoters love it. And I know Katie was probably trying too hard to knock her out, but like overall, it was a shutout. It was a very dominant display, and she did what she had to do, and she held on to all her titles. So she moves on.
Yeah.
Now to bigger and better things.
Go on ahead, yeah. Like we were trying to figure out, Ronan Mullen, as you well know, would be more versed in the world than I would be. But we were trying to figure out what would be next for her, and there are several major fights potentially that could still lie in wait for her. But there's also that sense that she's now 19 fights deep into her professional career, and you're kind of wondering, is that hunger still there? Does she want to keep going? But the suggestion is that she will want to keep going until she's 40 or maybe beyond.
Yeah, there's no stopping Katie Taylor. Katie Taylor and boxing go hand in hand. It's her whole life. She's dedicated her whole life to it. She's given her whole life to it. She loves the game. I don't think her life would be the same if she wasn't boxing. I don't think, it's what brings her, it's what gives her life. It's what brings her happiness. And she just, as long as I know Katie, I know her since she's about 13 years of age, and she's just boxing. She's dedicated her whole life to boxing, and you know what, she wants to break and make even more history. And it would be so unlike Katie Taylor if she didn't have more goals to break new ground. She's talking about now, she's the undisputed lightweight champion. She's talking about now becoming the undisputed light welterweight champion. And Eddie Hearn has set out a roadmap to make that happen. And I mean, if she does that, she's going to be the first boxer, male or female, to ever achieve such a feat. And that's going to be something else. But I tell you, it's going to be very, very difficult.
Yeah, there's some big names lying in wait, and some kind of heavy beasts, as it were, in those divisions that could lie in wait for her. Before you go, we're going to have Zora Antia on the show, I think some point later on in this week. Obviously, it's pretty busy with everything else that's going on. I know you would have crossed paths with him just a little bit, not necessarily during your amateur days, but the impact that he's had on boxing in this country just cannot be measured.
Look, first of all, I think it's a great move. I think fair play to us for getting Zora Antia on. Like, what a guy, what a coach, what an impact he's had on this on this country in terms of his boxing, and the ripple effect right across this country. In all the boxing clubs, you will see Zora Antia's mark on all the different coaches and all the different boxers. I was only talking to him yesterday, actually. We had a right good chat yesterday. Me and Zora was just congratulating him, and he was congratulating me, and we were just reflecting on the Olympics. And he's, as much as he's very happy with the Olympic gold, Kelly's, and the bronze of Aidan as well, he's thinking about the ones that just got away. He's always thinking about them. And he's hungry, he's ambitious, he just wants to win more and more. But what a man. And I think you're going to have a great chat with him.
Yeah, it's one of these things that doesn't come around all that often, and it almost seems odd that we haven't got a chance to speak to him all that often. But for the contribution that he's made to Irish sport and to Irish boxing in particular, he deserves all of the praise, it seems, in the world.
Without a doubt, you know, he was the one that kind of like I used to have long chats with Zora, you know, in training camps. You know, we could be having lunch between sessions or whatever, and he's a great guy to sit beside because, you know, you can just pick his brains and he'll just talk boxing. Like, you don't even have to ask him to talk boxing because he'll already be talking boxing, you know. And he was the one that kind of helped me to kind of digest boxing and look at it in a different way and analyze it and think about it and use my brain, you know, because I remember him telling me when he first came over here, he said, Irish, very strong, big heart, but no brain. You know? And he had to teach us how to, you know, because we were going out into worlds and European championships and we were fighting our heart out, but ultimately coming up short. Technically, we weren't sound, you know, we weren't sound basically, you know, and he helped us to change that, you know, and you know, he talks about chess, he talks about boxing being that kind of, you know, that kind of artistry, that kind of sweet science, you know, it's a mind game, you know, and you have to get the head and the hands and the feet working together. And another thing he said to me, when I look at a boxer, I need to look at their feet and I can tell you if they're good or not, you know. And it's funny, like, you know, when you're thinking boxing, you know, because people think automatically they think of the hands, but he can just look at the feet and he'd say if you're good or if you're not, or if you're, you know, if you're, you know, he can tell you by what your ability is like just by looking at your by looking at your footwork, you know. And I can see it all now. It makes sense to me now, you know. So, incredible man. You're going to really enjoy that chat.
Yeah, remarkably intuitive guy. Listen, Eric, thanks so much for taking time out to speak to us this evening. Congratulations on the win on Saturday, and from all of us here as well. Best of luck with the wedding next month.
Pleasure. Thanks a million, Richie. Appreciate it.
It's Eric Donovan, and we will be, as I mentioned, speaking to Zora Antia here on the show later on in the week. And tomorrow morning on OTB AM, siblings Michaela and Aidan Walsh will be live with Eoin and Ger. We'll be back with Breach Stack after these.
No, I've always had a mentality of like...
OTB AM.
With Gillette, put your best face forward.